cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.
Well, good evening, good afternoon or good morning from wherever you are around the world, and welcome to round one of what is the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship, coming to you from the Hockenheimring, or the Baden-Württemberg as it's otherwise known as, in southwest Germany, 100 kilometers south of Frankfurt, 200 kilometers west of Nuremberg. Paired as Germany's most popular circuit with the Nürburgring, two very popular tracks featured in Formula 1 and many other series from around the world. But today it plays host to the Apex Technologies LMP2s. This layout as we know it nowadays, sliced in half almost from the layout, the classic layouts that we knew of many years ago that stretched into the forests around the Hockenheimring. And this layout as we know it today, been around since 2002. 4-mile layout stretching and around the surrounding forests. My name's Alex Everitt, your commentator and broadcaster today, and I'm joined by my side with Eddie May. How are you doing today, Eddie?
I'm doing brilliantly. Thank you very much, Alex. Great introduction, and what a brilliant track to kick off the first race of this Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. The first time this series that we'll see these drivers really attack the track in anger. We've of course got some familiar faces and some new ones joining the grid, most notably as well. Certain drivers like Ramez Azam, I believe, as well as, let's have a look through who is here. We've got actually other drivers as well. Ibola Laval, he's currently sitting in third place. We saw him last time out with some very good results. But then, well, new faces. Diogo Perihina for Impulse Racing, who's currently topping the timings. That's a new face to the championship, and that's for Impulse Racing. Not quite an unfamiliar team, though. We've seen them at times. I think they've got new drivers coming in, though.
Absolutely. A new season, therefore a new host of drivers, some returning, some brand new. Very, very wealthy grid in terms of experience. 40 plus drivers we're going to see today, and the LMP2 is one of the most popular categories on iRacing. What can we expect to see today in sort of a reflection of the last season that we had with Apex Technologies, although it was a different category last season, the GT3s, I do believe. But what do we expect to see this season with a different category of cars, Ed?
Well, I'm expecting to see some brilliant driving all throughout the field. I mean, we've seen last season that drivers were going right till the ragged edge and fighting all the way through the 2 hours. So expect to see the very same, and expect to see, well, Ibola Laval, he's certainly coming on strong. Last season he finished down the order, I think, just inside the top 10, if memory serves correct. However, this time he's seemingly doing a lot better now, currently leading the Pro Division. Meanwhile, in the AMS, Bart Horston, another familiar face from last season, the Australian driver. Very quick pace from him, although I don't believe he's based in Australia, if memory serves right, so it doesn't seem that he's staying up too late or getting up too early for this one.
No, I was just wondering, it'd be a little bit early in the morning or late in the night, whichever way you think of it, for Horston. But top of the AMS by some margin at the moment, ahead of Christopher Stahl, I do believe. A couple of drivers in the pits at the moment as we cross over to halfway through the qualifying session here at Hockenheim. We're just looking at Lizawiski in the FuelTech Esports team. Red livery there, the Brazilian, coming around the infield now, stretching in towards Sector 3. We'll see if he can get higher up in the standings, but qualifying as it stands at the moment, Lawal in the pole position at the moment, Perarina in second place, it's Isla in third place, just got to get familiar with these names, and Nemethi in fourth place, Cuero in fifth place, Zuba in fifth place, Hayden in seventh, and Lizawiski, as we were watching just then, rounding off the top 8. And then in ninth place overall is the first of the AMS of Horston, as Lizawiski starts a brand new lap, setting at 1:27.958. And we're just seeing him cross over into Sector 1 now. Sector 2 now, and about half a second off top spot at the moment. Some way to go for him. We'll see if he can get any better. Let's see anyone else on track. The top 7 decided not to come out on track at the moment. I wonder why that is, Ed. It certainly seems like a prime opportunity in the session for drivers to try and get the better of Lawal at the moment.
I've had a little bit of a check, and for this, I've just noticed on the iRacing settings, I was thinking the same thing. However, we only have 3 laps in qualifying. You can only set 3 laps, and the session is time limited to 15 minutes. So the drivers can go out at any point they want to in that 15-minute time window to complete their 3 laps. So plenty of drivers opting to do their strategies early and do their laps early. Those other drivers, like we're seeing now, Artur Figueiredo, trying to see what he can manage later on. There's been more rubber laid down, of course, I think these sessions, I don't think the drivers come onto the track at the same time. I think it's their separate qualifying sessions. They don't need to worry about drivers impeding them at all, which is certainly one way of getting around that little tricky business.
Certainly does help on not the shortest track in the world, Hockenheimring, but a circuit certainly not as large as the likes of Le Mans, Daytona, of course, and the Nordschleife. But yeah, plenty of space for these drivers to get their laps in. We're still seeing some drivers out on track at the moment. The highest in the standings still running at the moment is the Chilean driver for Punto CL Racing of Bacigalupo, as he comes into Sector 2 now, the stadium section. But teed up well for you there to let us know about the stint rule. But most drivers have gone out, but these drivers later on in the session might have a more developed track where marbles are laid down and there's a bit of a groove laid down in the track. They might potentially have a bit more grip, or the opposite, where there's too much heat in the track and it might compromise sometimes. Although we just saw Lucas go wide coming out of the right-hander there and onto the gravel, that might have developed what's called in iRacing a 1x, which is an instant point, which in qualifying anyway will invalidate your lap. Certain amount of instant points accumulated in the race, in some series anyway, can lead to a disqualification, so you've got to be real careful of that. In qualifying, the biggest compromise it'll have is deleting your lap, as we see Bacigalupo start a brand new lap now.
Yeah, he's going to try and see what he can manage now. But of course, there's another thing to mention about the format of the race when we come into it very shortly, in about 2.5 minutes time, and that is the fact that it is a 2-hour semi-endurance race with fuel limits. So you have a 75% fuel tank, so you can't quite have the full level on, which means we see more stints, more chances for drivers to try differing strategies to one another. And on a hot track, we're currently, I think, 39 degrees. We're going to see drivers definitely needing to take tyres at one stage or another.
Absolutely, and that, to that extent, strategy is going to be really crucial here. It's with 75% fuel tank, you really have to think about how much fuel you take on per stint. Tyres, of course, is a factor. When do you take on tyres? Because presumably you can, these drivers will not take tyres to the full 2-hour race limit. It could be possible, but will it be the beneficiary thing to do? Probably not. I'm sure we'll find out the strategies as the race goes by very shortly, but you did mention the weather just a few moments ago. 25 degrees air temperature, I believe that is at the moment. And a wind speed of 23 kilometers per hour. So, depending on which direction that is heading, which we don't have that information to hand at the moment, but with these cars that punch a big hole through the air, could push them along on some corners, could hold them back on some corners, but the big shark fin on the back, similar to what we see in Formula 1, could be the detriment on some corners where the wind crosses the cars. Upsets them a little bit, but yeah, it's something to take note of with these cars, particularly when we get into the race with cold tyres and that sort of thing. These cars do punch a big hole through the air. I mean, they're very well designed when it comes to aerodynamics, Ed, but that big hole in the air for cars behind could be a big factor to this race when it comes to, well, just drivers hanging on to the car and just getting it through nice and clean.
Yeah, like you mentioned, it would be definitely a bigger help if we were using the older layout when you rush through the German forests, but on this you still have plenty of opportunities to make moves with the slipstream. You've got those long straights into the heavy braking zone at the hairpin. That's where we're likely to see moves being made, and also because of just how wide the circuit is at that particular moment in track, as we see one car shift into another. We're now following Alexander Roggenbuch. What can he pull off? I think, though, that is the end of qualifying now, Alex, so we can get you very shortly to the grid. I think the drivers have a little bit of warm-up to adjust to the settings of the race, get accustomed to the car on full fuel loads, and then we'll be able to get started with the first race of the season. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. It's going to be very, very interesting watching the first couple of laps. Like a little bit of start season nerves from these drivers. Most of these drivers, I assume, will probably just want to get through the first couple of laps nice and clean, but there will be some drivers in here who will know in their minds, particularly if they're towards the front of the grid, well, it's only an 8-round season stretching to August. Time to get the points in now, and they'll be trying to establish their positions fairly early on in this race. And a lot of teams in here, so working together with other drivers will be something we're going to need to spot throughout the race, as we look to a lot of drivers not in amongst their teams in warm-up at the moment. They're all fairly dispersed. I think it's just getting acclimatised to the track, getting used to the traffic around them, as we're watching James Abraham go through the middle section here. We'll stretch on to the bottom straight to approach the Mobile 1 curve. And nice 5-minute warm-up, as you mentioned there, to get these drivers acclimatised to the race upcoming.
Yeah, definitely. So we're following James Abraham, who was in contention for the AM Championship last season. Just missed out, however. Can he try and mount a charge this time around? Well, I think time will tell, and the next 2 hours will be very key for his chances. This is the first time where the drivers can size up one another. Plenty of new faces, plenty of old favourites as well returning. But of course, it's been a little while since we last saw the cars out in anger in the final round at Spa, so drivers could have got better. Drivers might have dropped off as well, might have fallen behind the curve a little bit. The car is always evolving in iRacing. There's always little tricks that can be found as well, with tyre models being changed, downforce calculations being changed. So the car that starts the season might not be the same one that finishes, and you're going to have to be adaptable as well.
Crucial point you've mentioned there. So practice off race weekend is going to be key. They have about 2 weeks in between each race meeting, as we have an 8-round season stretching to August. We've got round 1 here at Hockenheim. Round 2 will come to you on the 23rd of May in 1 week's time at the VIR circuit, the Virginia International Raceway, followed by Spa-Francorchamps on the 13th of June. Round 4 will take place in Germany again, but for the Nordschleife Nürburgring. That'll be an interesting one to watch. That's on the 27th of June. We have got Monza after that for round 5 on the 11th of July. July 25th will be the next round at Road America. August the 8th, Suzuka, and then the final round on August the 22nd. The absolute king when it comes to circuits of endurance racing, in my opinion anyway, the Sebring International Raceway. And of course this Sebring 12 hours was not too long ago. A couple of these drivers might have even used this car in that race just to get used to this season. But yeah, not a long season ahead of us, but a good season nonetheless, filled with some legendary tracks.
Absolutely, yes. And as well, we can bring in season organiser to the broadcast booth to welcome everyone, and I can welcome you, EJ, to what is hopefully going to be the start of a great season.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going great, mate. We're really looking forward to it. It's a minute to go, and then we're going to be right into it.
We're really looking forward to having you on board again. The season 2 is going to be bigger and better. It's going to be awesome. So thank you guys for taking the journey with us.
No worries, we're glad to be here, and I'm glad to stay in the commentary box. Last season had its fair share of excitement, and with some new faces, EJ, what are you hoping from this season?
We're hoping for just as good racing as we had last year. It was fantastic racing up and down the field, both different divisions. We expect to have equal, if not better, racing this year. So super excited about it.
Absolutely, and we're going to be seeing you out on track as well, EJ, so very best of luck for you in your race, and let's hope to see some good battling.
Thanks, Edward. Just don't show me if I spin, please, like you did last season.
You've got to not spin first, EJ.
Work on it. Thanks, guys.
All right,
have a
thank
good
you very much.
Yep.
So, everybody, that was EJ Fielner, season organiser for the LMP2 Championship, Apex Technologies, on board for this season once again. Thank you, of course, to them. But now, as we've come to the end of the warm-up session, Alex, it's time to get started on the grid.
Yes, and we'll take you through the grid right now ready for round one of the season. Lual puts it on pole position for the first race. Pereira in second place, followed by Eisler in third position. Fourth position goes to Nemethi, and with Quero in fifth place. Zuba in sixth, with Figueiredo in seventh, Hayden in eighth. Lizawiski in ninth, with Horson, the first of the AMs, in 10th position. Calqueen in 11th place, with Preto in the 12th position. And then down in 13th and 14th we have Jamie Conway of Britain and Apex Tech Racing themselves, the host team of this series, in 13th. Bakigulupo in 14th, Molnar in 15th, with Callum Wright in 16th, Drew Lloyd in 17th, with Avale in 18th. Stahl is next in the AM category in 19th, followed by Jan Bill in 20th. Alvaro Fernandez in 21st, with Alvaro Gutierrez in 22nd. 23rd is James Ibrahim, with Justin Young in 24th. Schilleret in 25th, with Radats in 26th, 27th Baptista, Ponce in 28th, and the field follows as it is. And we're about to get underway here at Hockenheim, round one of the season.
Absolutely, yes, a bumper though. 44 car grid, 44 LMP2s are about to do battle here for the first time this season. Hockenheimring, what a great venue. And Ivan Laval, well, he's had a great qualifying lap, but can he convert that into the race victory? They're going to get underway very shortly here.
And away goes Lual, nice and early around the final corner, and we're underway for the first round of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. Into turn one, Lual goes, followed closely by Pereira, close behind in second. Third and fourth have swapped already between Nemethi and Eisler. Into turn two they go. There's a dive down the inside from Hayden, and running wide is Figueiredo as he drops down further down and just about misses contact with the car in front. A very slow getaway out into the Parabolica for Figueiredo.
Yeah, absolute pandemonium here, but thankfully we've not seen any cars contacting one another, so great to see that so far. Hopefully that's not the commentator's curse, but like you mentioned, it is all three wide going into there. One car has to rejoin back on the circuit. That shuffles the pack out once more. They're going to go four wide in the background there coming out of the hairpin. This is great stuff. And here further back you can see, oh, it's all kicking off. Ryan Mass unfortunately pulled into the pits, but our race is as follows. Laval from Pereira, from Nemethi, from Quero, from Zuba. Those are the top five. And then further back, well, try and pick a car because there's so many, aren't there, all together on circuit, all close for position. I think that is Hayden looking close behind the rear bumper of Eisler, seeing if there's anywhere through, but there isn't anything to go just at the moment. So Hayden is going to have to bide his time a little bit. Laval, he needs to focus on building the gap to Pereira. 1 second currently, but with the slipstream that can get eaten up.
A stunning first lap, in fact, from Lual, who was looking a little bit worried in the first two corners, but as soon as he got onto the Parabolica, head down and stretched to a second out in front of Pereira. An excellent opening lap, but the biggest mover of the field so far, we have got 11 places gained by 31st position. I believe that is Daniel Nunez in the AM category. There's a lot of cars scuffling for position behind. A flash of the lights there from one of the drivers back there, not happy with someone in front of him. But let's head back to the front to keep an eye on things up there, as Lual still leads away from Pereira. Quero in third place has managed to get back ahead of Nemethi. Coming through the infield now. Nemethi will try and get that position back to where he started, in fact. So it has been a very good opening 2 laps from Quero in the Punto CL racing machine. Red livery just driving around the Mobile 1 curve there up towards the long left-hander that is the Satch's curve. And as we come down to finish lap 2, other big movers, we've got Callum Wright, the Brit of High Calibre Autosport, has gained 5 places so far to 11th, following Lucas Bakagilumpo, we followed in qualifying quite closely. He's up into the top 10 with 4 places gained. We've also got Jan Burl, who has gained 7 places up to 13th so far, has got Jamie Conway close behind, but a good exit from the first corner there from Burl. Got a good run on Araccio Calquini in front, but not close enough to make a move just yet. Come round the Parabolica now. Perarina has no answer just yet to Lawal's dominant pace. Only 3/10 between them in terms of lap time on the previous lap that you can see there on the timing tower. But Lawal doing very well in these early phases of the race, Ed.
Yeah, they're definitely going very well early doors, setting fastest lap after fastest lap for the time being. But how long will we be able to keep that pace up? That's the key. It's a marathon, not a sprint here for the 2 hours, so to be able to make sure you're nice and consistent. And well, for a moment I thought Perarina was out of the race, but I think he just had a slight blink, a slight little internet disconnect, which is definitely not going to do the drivers behind any comfort. If they want to get involved in some battles, they might have a blinking LMP2 car to worry about. Meanwhile, further back we're seeing Christopher Stahl, and this is for the LMP2, the AM class lead. Currently just navigating the circuit nice and safely, and it's good to see that we haven't had too many drivers involved in incidents at this early stage of the race. With 4 laps gone, and most of the drivers at least are still going around.
Yeah, 2-hour race. It's something these drivers will have to drum into their heads fairly early on, and they've done it very well so far, you've got to say. But a 2-hour race, you certainly don't want to go for any die-hard moves this early on in the race. But we are seeing 5th, 7th, 8th and 9th getting fairly close together at the moment. Sorry, we're looking at 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. I left out a number there. But yeah, plenty of close action so far. First of the AMs at the moment, Christopher Stahl is very, very close indeed to some of the pro cars ahead. This is something he'll be very, very pleased with. A couple of pro cars in between him and second place runner James Ebram. James Ebram, we did see, was I think he did qualify pole of the AMs, but seems to have dropped back so far, the host team of this championship. Very nice livery, I've got to say, on that car. Front half orange and the rear half as dark blue. As we come around the Mobil 1 curve now. Check back in with the front runners. I did panic for a little bit. I thought Lawal and Perarino had blinked out for a second, but there was a little bit of a delay their appearance there, but still running up top. The time seemed to have stabilised now, Ed. So do you think Lawal has pushed a bit too early, or do you think he's just sort of getting into the zone and managing the distance?
I think to me it's more of a case that Lawal is good at managing the tyres when they're cool at the start of the race. Seems to have a good handle on the car, whereas Perarina, that's probably the area where he's weakest. But now that the tyres are back up to temperature and they're both on level playing fields, they're starting to balance out a little bit. I want to see potentially what the gaps are on the left-hand side, because there's going to be a sea of yellow and orange, I'm sure, when we come to that point of the race of focusing on the gaps. Well, Laval leading the race as he qualified. He's looking good for the moment, isn't he?
Yes, and he was breaking the draft of Diogo Perarina behind, just coming up towards the infield there. So he's certainly not happy with Perarina getting any closer to him. He seems a bit nervous about that, but you know, racers are racers. They want to be first and they want to stay first. So Lawal definitely not holding back in these early phases, as we can tell from his manoeuvre there. As we come on to the final section of the track to end lap 5, 7 minutes gone, a long way to go yet. And just to check down further down in the field, we have got quite a few big movers. Let's see anyone else who has moved up fairly recently. It's all jumping about a little bit from 10th downward. Not sure if that's our timing tower playing tricks on us, but it's a big queue, 6-car queue from 11th to 16th. Ending with Peter Moller at the back of them for Race Clutch Racing. And Race Clutch actually doing pretty good when it comes to the team standing at the moment. 4th, 5th and 16th at the moment, so quite a good showing for them. Punto, CL Racing mostly Chile-based drivers, doing very well at the moment as well. In fact, they've got more drivers in the top 10 than any other team at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Although there is one team that's sitting at the top with their, I think their only driver this season, or this evening at least, Ivo Laval for High Caliber Autosports. Very good job indeed as well. Got Impulse Racing, like you said, up in second place with Diego Perina. Although Diego Perina, he's going to, I think, very shortly have a little bit of company from the car behind, and that's Mauricio Queiro for, like you mentioned, Punto CL Racing. Closing in, putting a little bit of pressure, maybe just trying to fill the rear view mirrors of Perina in front and biding the time, because of course there's a long race to go. You don't want to show your hand too early. If the move presents itself to you, then of course you'll take it, but it's not worth making mistakes and forcing moves that aren't really there.
Absolutely, and he seems to have dropped back in the last few corners or so. Perina certainly is pushing it. We saw him run a bit wide coming out of the final corner of the south curve. But dropped back a little bit. Queiro gained 2 places at the start of the race, so certainly no slouch. Certainly could have, in fact, got a little bit more out of qualifying if this race is suggesting anything so far. They've broken away from 4th and 5th. And Queiro certainly can set his sights on in front of him. Doesn't need to worry about behind him until he starts battling with Perina in front of him. It's proving to be quite quick on this second half of the lap here, Ed. He's gaining in on him ever so slightly at this part of the track.
Absolutely, and well, there's big moves everywhere else as well. I'm having a look on my phone screen. I can see Jan Boll has been getting involved in a few moves, actually down in 12th position. You can see plenty of action in the background there. That's Jamie Conway trying to go toe-to-toe with Juan Soaval, and it's a great effect because he's been able to keep 13th place and then focuses on getting back past Jan Boll in the Impulse racing car. Lovely liveried machine, isn't it? The sort of the blue, white and black, the nice spec map usage there. The car, very nice indeed. But of course, for how long can Jan Boll hold off? He's losing touch to Horatio Calquin in front for Punto CL Racing. They might be focusing on the battle back from himself. Look at that, the nice snaking train of LMP2s making their way out of the south curve as they go into the north curve now. Making careful not to run too far wide, but still carrying plenty of speed. Don't want to be vulnerable for this. Another overtaking move into the second corner. Gotta get a good exit, doesn't it? Because it sets you up for the parabolica and the hairpin. Seems to be all good for the moment, though.
Just jump on board with Conway just to get a glimpse of how much on this parabolica you can gain on the car in front. But these LMP2 cars are so quick and have got so much grip that the parabolica, although it's a fairly long straight in racing terms, it just seems to end so quickly in these cars. We watch on board with Conway trying to reel in Burl in front. Burl is one of the biggest movers off the grid so far with 8 places gained. It's been a brilliant start as he eases up onto Burl. So Jamie Conway, although he is in the position of which he started, he's not wanting to hang around. He wants that position of 12th to start creeping his way back up the order. Maybe if he can get in front, he can work his hand on catching up with Horatio Calquin in 11th place there, who seems to be dropping back just a little bit as this pack here we're watching reels in the driver in 11th place. And just to keep an eye on things up front as well, 4th place Bentz. Oh, and there's a spin back at turn 1. That is Hugo Preto. So let's get a replay of that. He thankfully rejoins the track nice and clean, but the replay there, oh, it just the back end giving way as he came through turn 1 there, perhaps hitting a bit too much of that inside curve, but a huge loss of positions, far from ideal for the Apex Tech Racing driver, who is now back in 15th place, but not hanging around, getting head down, trying to work back through the order as he battles with Peter Molnar, the Race Clutch Racing Hungarian, into the hairpin. Pareto seems to have sorted that out. No undercut available to Molnar. Back into 14th place, and will now work on getting back up the order. The next pack of cars to work on is Ovale Conway and Burl, who we were just watching a moment ago.
Yeah, and if you see them battling like they were before, he's going to catch right up to them. Meanwhile, further in front, Ivo Laval, he's been able to build the gap now 1.5 seconds between first and second place. Farina, I think, has been looking a bit too further behind him. Is Mauricio Queiro from Dosia Racing, the two drivers on the bottom 2 steps of the podium, seemingly squabbling while this man Ibola clears a gap to them. I'm not sure though, are we going to see any moves being made? We're able to see into the second corner, closing speed differential in pace potentially at that area of the track, and then going through, like you mentioned, the Parabolica. What is the closing speed like? How much of a speed differential do you get by being in the tow? Well, I can tell you it isn't that much. It was about 0.5 of a second, then it sort of came down to 4 into this happen. So you need to be a little bit closer than Mauricio was last time by to gain any sort of ground, any sort of meaningful ground to make those positions up. But then again, does Mauricio need to make those positions up as desperately as we're making it out to be? Probably not. It's still early days in the race. We're not even a quarter of the way through it yet, so plenty of time for moves to be made. And moves are being made further back, because again, those battles in the realms of the top 10, top 20 zone looking very tasty indeed.
Yeah, we're just looking at 10th place, as you've mentioned it. Cal Queen, with the spin that came from Prato, that promoted Cal Queen up to 10th place into the top 10, and another place gained for Jan Burl, who has gained 9 places now throughout the race. Still has Jamie Conway very close behind. But let's have a check-in with the AMS as well. In first place of the AMS, now my timing tower is messing up a little bit. We still got Christopher Stahl in first place of the AM category, just ahead of James Ibram. Here's the car behind in the Apex Technologies car. A little bit of a tow from the car ahead from Stahl, so something helping him along. There's a big crocodile of LMP2s just ahead of them, which I presume is the battle for 13th, headed by Molnar. There's quite a few cars amongst in that battle, but Molnar in 15th place there, trying to latch on to the back of Prato, who made the move just a few moments ago, as we saw. We've also got a move back there. That's Callum Wright up the inside of Drew Lloyd into the hairpin. Brit versus Brit, but Callum Wright completes the move rather impressively. We seem to be seeing most and probably all of the moves made into the hairpin there, Ed.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of overtaking opportunities there for the moment, but I'm having a look at timing software. If you know how SDK works, you'll see that we've got the event viewer. It's just a sea of blue. It's a sea of passes all the time. Drivers passing one another for position every single opportunity they can get. This is brilliant stuff, and this championship is definitely looking very close. There's not really massive pace differences throughout this field. There's no drivers that are massively better than one another, so we're seeing close fights. And here is a bit of a moment here. This is Mauricio Queiro going through. It wasn't, rather, but Mauricio Queiro is still behind Diego Perina for second place. But what can the 79 Chilean driver manage?
And they're now actually coming up to lap a few cars. So if we check where Lawal is, he's making his way round cars around him. So this will be the, a pivotal part of the race as Lawal flashes his lights at the car ahead. This is a pivotal part of the race where back markers, just to explain the blue flag rule, I mean, it runs different in different countries, in different series, but mostly the blue flag is an informational flag to let you know that there is a car a lap ahead of you, behind you, and they are going to be coming past at some point in the near future. So Lawal will be flashing his lights at the car ahead to try and tell them to get out of the way, to be courteous, but it is up to the back marker to ensure that they do not make any contact with the leaders or the leading cars passing them. It is their choice to let them by or to maintain racing line. But we see Lawal is actually breaking away with Perina stuck behind the 113 car ahead.
Ooh, very close, isn't it, coming out of the North curve there?
And in fact, it might even lead to a move from Quero behind, very close to the back of the turquoise and black car of Perarina. As we come onto the Parabolica now, let's just jump on board with Quero. Let's see if he can gain on the straight. There's no free space ahead, so yeah, look at this draft take effect from Quero. He'll now try to find the inside, evades to the outside as Perarina guards the inside. Round the outside goes Quero. Is there going to be racing room? Yes, there is. They get through the corner side by side, and Quero takes second place here, with Perarina getting compromised almost from a few corners back. Quero took great advantage of that to take second place, and now 3 places gained for the Chilean driver.
That was a bit scary though, wasn't it? Going into the hairpin, you could see that Quero wanted to move to the right, but as he made the move on the steering wheel, so did the 33 of Diego Perarina. So he had to take a face of action, then go to the outside, try and carry the speed through, which he did. And that was the difference maker, the speed on the exit to help him secure second place. Meanwhile, well, we can see battles here between Timo Hayden, who's getting through on back marker traffic, and, well, Peter Zuber for Race Clutch, closing in behind in 6th position. You can see a flash of lights there from Zuber. The Hungarian driver looks to get through on the 111, but the 111, well, decides not to let him through. And I mean, like you mentioned, it is only informational, the blue flag. The drivers don't have a duty to let the other cars through. Obviously different leagues have different rulings, and I think there the 111 car does eventually move out of the way. But let's have a look back through the field and see the fights that are down from, like you mentioned, that place back. Well, I can see that Jamie Conway's still in the thick of it as per usual. Car close in front, and I think cars closing in behind, but Jamie Conway does have a bit of slipstream coming through the Parabolica. Is he going to have a late lunge down the inside? No. Thinks better of it, decides to slot in behind, but all of those cars you can see slotting in behind Jamie, well, they're all for position, and they're all, what, half a second back from one another.
Yeah, it's so close at these crucial positions on track, and you know, with these cars only having 75% capacity in the fuel tank, you might be approaching a point in the race where people start to think, right, well, what is our strategy? When are we going to come in the pit? And there might be undercuts and overcuts considered. There might be a few drivers out here who have a spotter to help them figure out where they can find a gap in the traffic, similar to the Mercedes Red Bull debacles that they have almost every race in Formula 1. There might be a little bit of that going on, particularly with the leaders up front, with the likes of Perarina and Lawal probably wanting to stay out as long as they can, try and see these tyres through as much as they can, and they're not really battling, so quite a bit of rubber being saved. But if we look towards the battle for 10th, well, it's not a battle for 10th actually, it is Cal Queen passing the Belgian driver of I think that's Matu Molinares, and made it tricky for Cal Queen, it's got to be said. And Bill and Conway certainly having an easier job passing the back marker, but Conway up the inside, I think that is, oh, and there's contact from the rear. That was the back marker, in fact, going into Jan Bill. So all his hard work throughout this race undone by as he rejoins the track relatively unsafely. He evades, realizing there's a car on his inside, but back markers involved. Let's see if we can get a replay of that. We've got a lot of people passing cars, so struggling to find the replay option. Let's take a look, see if we can grab it.
I can see it there. Jan Bull has indeed had an incident. Yeah, but there's plenty of overtakes, so you might not even be able to find it in time. Impulse Racing driver loses out. I think here we do. We can see a replay. Back marker just gets it all wrong, tries to take evasive action. And is that the 111 of, I think that's Mathieu Molnares for Stage 1 Racing, getting involved in that fight. And it's difficult, isn't it, when the fighting is so close, when it's just very intense. It's difficult to see, but it's unfortunate for Jan Bol, but he's doing well to fight back up through the order. It was 14th, now up into, what was 15th rather, now into 14th. Looks to the inside, isn't able to do it, and there's the 111 car, the car that did contact him earlier. No, there's contact again between the pair of them.
Oh, he's into the wall. Jan Burl's into the wall, and that might be... Oh, that is... Oh, I thought that was race-ending potential, but Jan Burl a little bit frustrated with the 111 car. Clearly, there might have been a little bit of netcode involved in that. It's such a dirty word, the netcode word on iRacing, but Jan Burl has only dropped to 20th. 21st. I can see so far as he slips behind Kamal Hashimi. But yeah, not a good couple of laps for Burl indeed.
Yeah, definitely coming back with Christopher Stahl. He's leading, isn't he, the AM class, and I think that he was the driver that put it on pole position, just ahead of James Abram. Other drivers there. There's plenty of drivers gaining positions. There's one driver as well that's gaining 20 positions since the start of the race, and that is Kamal Hashimi, currently in 24th place. Great performance from the Apex Tech Racing driver, who's been with in a lot of fights. Very safe, Kamal doing a good job. Meanwhile, coming up to actually, no, going to go back to Kamal Hashimi, 5th place in class. Look at this, seeing what he can manage there. A little bit of a wide moment going on to the second to last corner. It's easily done, but you don't want to run too wide. That is where we saw, I think it was in the famed 2018 or 2019 German Grand Prix, where plenty of drivers made mistakes going across the drag strip there in the wet, and I don't think iRacing models the lack of grip there, but if it does, well, be very careful.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. If it doesn't simulate that, but yeah, you certainly don't want to risk it out there, particularly on any track, any outfield moment on the circuit. But Hashimi gained, it keeps changing for me, but has gained near on 20 places in this race so far. Just keeping it clean, getting through the pack, utilising every position, picking off each one as it comes. 5th place in category at the moment. So, and Hashimi seems to have had the fastest lap of the AM category so far, as he approaches the 172 machine of Teo Schleretti. Actually gaining quite rapidly on the car in front. Let's just go on board to see our view. Schlerer coming off the outer curb, sideways going through the Satch's curve there, and Hashimi just seems to be hooking up this car very, very well. The Cosworth steering wheel there is not struggling at all. In fact, you can clearly see Hashimi has got far more grip than the car in front. Where will the move come in these wide and very fast cars? There are few overtaking opportunities, but these drivers will take every opportunity they can.
Ooh, who's that?
There was a car off in the background then, and that might have been Rob Nowens. So, slipping it sideways, coming out of turn 1, just hit no one around him, hit the curb too hard, and spun it round. The Stage 1 racing car has to recover now.
You don't want to have that happen to you. You don't want to see that happen in front of you either, going through the roll curve. It's a maximum commitment corner. You can't half-ask it. You need to go absolutely full send, and if there's a car spinning in front of you, that can throw you off your mark. You might have to take evasive action, and if you do, you could end up in the wall, or, despite your best efforts, still colliding with a spinning car. So very good that that didn't become a massive incident, and we were still able to talk about the fact that it was an incident that could have been, or an incident that would have been. But Kamal Hashimi late on the brakes, missing a position, losing out actually. And who was that he lost out to? I think that was Theo Schlereth.
That was Schlereth, yes, and losing out to a back marker as well. I presume, I can't quite tell who it is, but Hashimi did make the move with the car spinning in turn 1, coming round the parabolica. Hashimi carried the run through onto the parabolica, made the move into the hairpin, which we did see, and then lost the position out, braking just too late for the next corner ahead. So Hashimi getting a bit ahead of himself, but you know, doing very, very well so far. 13th on the track at the moment. Just needn't make mistakes like that again, certainly. But Schlereth has been given a bit of a lifeline there with keeping 4th place in the virtual best racing machine at the moment. Meanwhile, at the front, we have still got Lawal in the lead. Cuero in 2nd place, has broken away from Pereira. And then in 4th place, Just a bit further back there, you can see Nemethi in fourth with Timo Hayden. 3 places gained in this race so far, the Impulse Racing Machine. Peter Zuber in 6th place for Race Clutch Racing. Rodrigo Lisowiski in 7th place for Fuel Tech. Followed by 6 places gained of Baki Glupo of Punto CL Racing. Followed by teammate Christian Eisler. And in 10th place, rounding off the top 10 at the moment, Jamie Conway, who has been making moves the last 15 minutes or so. 3 places gained in the race so far. And let's see if there's any other battles going out on the track at the moment.
There's plenty of things going on around 10th position. If we could maybe have a look at the intervals on the timing tower, we'll be able to see just how close they are. You can see already on the circuit, they're very close together. See what on the gaps between each car. Look at that interval between them, 4.1 or 4.1 tenths of a second. Put it on the Molnar to
We have got a crash further back in the field. Sorry to interrupt you there, Ed, but we have Daniel Nunes, and we just get another look at that just to see what happened. And a car involved trying to get the undercut. I couldn't quite tell what number that was, but someone trying to get the undercut on the 171 car and has just put them into the wall. Heavy damage on that car, and I think has in fact reset to the pits right away. And that seems to be race over for Nunes.
Yeah, I think it might have been a car coming through to try and lap, but maybe misjudged it slightly. A little bit of damage on the front of that car, but a lot of damage on the back of the car of Daniel Nunes that we saw come into the pits. Thankfully, though, this fight has been able to carry on without any fireworks, any tears coming through. Peter Molnar here, sort of towards the rear end of the train in a nice red and blue machine with little accents of white, looking very nice indeed. As we see drivers coming into the pits now, the start of the pit stop phase coming in. There's plenty of drivers diving in now, aren't we, as we come up to the half-hour mark. That does mean they should be good to get through without splashes and dashes towards the end of the race, but it might be a little bit close for comfort for some drivers.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a few drivers enter the pits now. We saw James Ebram enter the pits, Jamie Conway, Roy Mass, we haven't mentioned yet, has entered the pits, as we can see there. But yeah, a lot of people's strategy coming into play now. So let's see if we can check in with the leaders now to see where and when abouts they're going into the pits. It's a great battle in the midfield here. Timing tower is messing up a little bit. It says 4th place for Peter Molnar. He's not. He is round about the battle for 10th and very close to the car in front of Ovale and Calqueen, just ahead in the red car. The blue car of the Idrium Motorsports car. Look at that, Molnar stepping out to take a look. Let's get on board with Molnar to see if any move will come very soon. It'll be interesting to see if any of these drivers come into the pits. You might see Calqueen coming into the pits very soon as he went wide, going through the Satch's curve. Let's see if any of them come in the pits now. The answer is all 3 of them, Calqueen, Ovale and Molnar, into the pits, and quite a few drivers actually are in the pits right now. So that capacity on the fuel tank has hit its moment here on lap 22, so about 31 minutes through. So we're going to see, potentially going to see 3 pit stops from much of these drivers today, if all goes to plan for the drivers, of course.
Yeah, definitely. As we see what was our race leader coming through now past the drivers that have pitted. One driver that hasn't pitted, though, is still leading the race, and that is Drew Lloyd. But look at the gap now between, well, what is hopefully going to be first and second after Drew Lloyd makes his pit stop. Well, Carrero is close right up to Laval all of a sudden. Very good strategy, potentially in the pit lane. Might have been right on the edge of getting a slowdown, but was able to judge it to perfection. And now he's in with a shot of fighting with what will soon be our race leader.
Maybe. Let's see what happens to Drew Lloyd. Is a bit not too far ahead, so as soon as Drew Lloyd comes into the pits, we will presume that Lowell does come into the pits. But now under big pressure is Lowell in the High Calibre Autosports machine, a Punto CL racing car right behind him. In fact, Lowell has pulled a little bit of a gap in the last few corners or so. So Quero certainly with the better pit stop, the better pit lane entry, better pit lane exit, all of that put together makes up seconds in these cars, crucial seconds in fact, as the pit stops are quite long in these cars. And Drew Lloyd is in the pits now, so that will relinquish the lead to Lowell. Crosses the line to lead another lap here at the Hockenheimring as we start lap 24. And we are over a quarter of the way through this race.
Yeah, definitely very, very close indeed. But I think Lowell is able to build the margin now. Able to come back out on track and get back onto the ways he was of just having the sheer pace, sheer ability to build the gaps, but also you need to be good at navigating the traffic. It's one thing being good at hot lapping and being able to lead the race, but you've got to manage your traffic to have good racecraft. So we're going to see, I think, firsthand a little bit of a test of that as Lowell comes up to back marker car up ahead. Mr. Quero is there ready to pounce in case anything happens, but for the most part it seems that it's all right.
Well, we saw Quero earlier on in the race take full advantage of the car ahead of him at the time, which was Perina, and utilised the use of the lapped traffic to get an undercut and make a move. And look at that, frantically flashing lights, the number 14 car of Lowell, flashing to the back marker in front. He does not want his race compromised at all, and the car ahead not moving out the way anytime soon. As we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, the hole in the air that these cars create is huge, so you can certainly feel that right now with the back marker ahead, the 141 machine of Justin Young in the T3 Esports car. In fact, has peeled off into the pits. Yes, no, they haven't. Oh, they've been lapped.
They peeled off on the side on the pit straight, I think, just to let through our race leader, and then after the Nord curve, I think peeled off to let through Mr. Quero. So good, sort of sensible driving by the back marker traffic, not wanting to squabble with the leaders, especially when they're within a second of one another. Instead, though, we're going to follow back. The gaps are starting to build a little bit further back. You can see Benson Nemethi in 4th place with a bit of a gap to 3rd place in front and a bit of a gap to 5th place behind. However, there are still drivers that don't really have any gaps, and that is Callum Wright. I think he's right in the middle of a little fight for 14th, 13th place.
Callum Wright in 13th there, yeah, just ahead of Cal Queen, and in fact has found his way past Cal Queen. So let's see if we can get a replay just to catch all of that move there. In fact, we don't have a replay, I do apologise for that, but yeah, this pack here probably need to follow it a little bit more. It is shuffling quite frantically at the moment. Most of these drivers trying to get themselves further up, potentially into the top 10, but just a report on Christian Eilsler in 10th place at the moment. 7 places dropped from the start of the race, and through the pit stop phase that we just saw, Conway and Becca Gulupo have found their way past Eisler, so maybe a pit stop gone wrong there for Eisler. Certainly one of the quickest cars on track, as we saw in qualifying and earlier on in the race, so trying to gain ways on the next couple of laps before the next pit stop. And in fact, as we see coming onto the Parabolica, a very good exit from the Einfahrt Parabolica corner. With Eisler now gaining on the 9th position, car ahead of Jamie Conway. Oh, and a big lunge up the inside, huge lunge, and he's managed to keep it nice and tight to the inside. In fact, no, has to lay it out to the outside, but there wasn't enough of an acceleration from Conway to get it back. In fact, it's not Conway, do excuse me, it was a back marker, so do excuse me, is the 107 car of Roy Mass, and Roy Mass didn't seem very happy about that move for one reason or another. But in 23rd place, 6th of the AMS, lapped by the car ahead of Osler. It was a big move, and it looked like the kind of move that you'd go for in a battle for position.
Yeah, definitely. It was seemingly one that Roy Mass wasn't too eager to let by. Instead, though, he, I think, was sort of forced into it. Meanwhile, though, there's battling everywhere, isn't there? Higher up the field, you can see Peter Molnar, I think, is trying to close in on Hugo Preto, as well as other drivers everywhere. And I mean, I'm going to have a look here, because let's have a look. Peter Molnar, he's in the slipstream, isn't he, of Hugo Preto. 77 car leading the 95 car. Oh, Roy Mass gets a little bit out of shape, doesn't he, into the sort of the first, I think what's it called, is it the Einhardt Parabolica? And then into the Parabolica here, closing in, but that mistake has cost him.
Absolutely, dropped back a fair bit. A move could have been on if he had hooked up the Einhardt Parabolica well. Gains rapidly under braking going into the hairpin there. Molnar's certainly got the pace on Preto ahead of him. But to happen on another corner, another day, it seems. So who else have we got in close battles? We've got Conway fairly close to Baki Glupo, gaining on him ahead. As we come through the Mobile 1 curve into the Satches curve. Let's see what else we've got going on. Guerrero is in fact still pretty close to Lawal, the race leader ahead. Half a second between them. You can see the 14 car just ahead of Guerrero there. And we check on Perarina near 5 seconds back from the 2 cars ahead. So not gone to plan as of yet for Perarina. Maybe a little trick up his sleeve at some point in this race. But Guerrero is doing wonders on these last few laps, gaining rapidly on Lawal, pressure increasing, and broke very late going into the hairpin, just about managed to recover it and get it into the tight apex. Thing is, with these drivers, they're so skillful. Every little extra in each corner matters to these drivers. They're such highly qualified drivers in terms of iRacing, which is the skill-based system iRacing uses. It gives you a higher number based on how well you do in races, in ranked races on iRacing, and most of these drivers are in the 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 region, I'm told. So in terms of iRacing capability, very capable drivers all across the grid.
So Musso Guerrero closing in, isn't he, on Ibola Laval? This is for the race lead, don't forget, so very close margins. It's still, we're 40 minutes into the race, and the first 2 are only separated by, well, about half a second as Laval flashes to try and get past the back marker traffic. That might be Kevin Aby. I think that is Kevin Aby. Yep, the 128 car getting past down the inside, but is he going to then get past by second place? I think just about, but it's still a little bit scary, a little bit sketchy for some of these front runners when passing the back marker traffic. But of course, it is only advisory in the back. They have their own race to run. Let's not forget, they've got their own things to worry about. They can't afford to lose out too much time basically falling off the track to let race leaders through. They've got to get involved themselves. But oh, what is going on here? There's a battle going on. This is what happens if you're in the top areas of the field and you come across drivers that battle. You're going to get involved in the battles as well, but he managed to navigate that nice and safely, does Ibola.
Oh, look away, Panto. Look away, Panto Racing fans. That was really close indeed. And these 2 drivers, Lawal and Guerrero, having a tough time fighting these back markers. But the thing is, I'm half going to stick up for these drivers further back in the field here. I mean, they are in their own race. I mean, they're not going to want to lose out to drivers behind them or lose out to drivers in front of them either, are they? So, well, you know, while they should really think about the leading drivers, they've also got to think about their races as well. It's a catch-22 situation when you're in their shoes or in their cockpits. In this case, as we look back there, Perarina has actually gained in a little bit on the 2 drivers ahead of him in classification, Lawal and Guerrero. Has managed to get through the pack a little bit better, or easier should I say, as he makes moves on the two behind. Oh, very close between them two. That could have been tears for Perarina. Them two coming together there as he was on the inside going into the Einfahrt Parabolica.
I think that was Kevin Abbey and Kevin Proud, Adam Proud rather, getting involved with one another, and that is a fight for position. So the drivers, they're more than allowed to have their own little squabbles out on circuit, but it seems as well that it's partially at the cost of other drivers trying to get through. They're a little bit quicker, that they've got their own races to run, but that's the thing, is that it's all about managing the traffic. I think you can be quick, but you've got to manage it, and drivers that have managed it are doing it very well indeed. Christian Radats being one of them, and he's, I believe, leading the AM class and got a clear bit of track behind him. I think that's James Ebram just rounding through the Parabolica in the background. Yes, it is. So second or first, they're still within touching distance. They can still see one another, so don't count them out of the race just yet. Meanwhile, Christopher Stahl for T3 Esports close behind another car. And is that a back? Is the 171 of Daniel Nunes that we also saw earlier this race have an incident in the Nord curve with a faster car, just tapping him up the rear, sending him backwards into the wall, meaning that he has to come into the pits to tow and repair.
Absolutely. And yeah, Radats, we were just mentioning there. I said Punto CL Racing look away when the carnage was, well, near carnage was going on up ahead for second position. However, Radats, we haven't mentioned much today, as seems to have got the jump on Ibram and Stahl. And yeah, doing very well up the front here, broken away from James Ibram just behind in the 108 machine. Let's see what Ibram can do. In fact, the time just a little bit slower on that lap, so Radats doing very, very well at this point in the race. 14 places gained. A phenomenal effort so far by the Chilean driver. Punto CL Racing doing very, very well today. First in AMS, third in the pros, and fourth in the pros. Both third and fourth outright as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been great to see, isn't it? Seeing new drivers, new faces coming into this championship. Of course, Ibarra Laval, current leader, we saw last season, didn't quite have this level of pace as well as fortune. But, well, a new season, maybe it's a new start for Ibola. He's doing very well to manage the race so far. Now he's got clear air. He's able to build a slight margin to Mauricio Carrera. Not a lot, of course, but any breathing room is certainly going to be welcome for our race leader. But that's certainly not going to be welcome. What on earth was that? That was a back marker coming through. Was that potentially Artie Boschart coming back on circuit?
Yeah, in fact, Artie Boschart, haven't mentioned him much today. Oh, a spin coming out of the Einfahrt Parabolica, just pushing the power down a little bit too much and rejoining. Yeah, nearly took the leader with him, but yeah, just about misses Lawal there. Does Boschart in 27th overall at the moment. As we rejoin the live action, Lawal not under any, well, not under much pressure from Quero behind. It seems to have stabilised a little bit between them. The gap over a second between each other. And we've got Perarina not too far behind still. You can just about see Quero ahead go through the Mobile 1 curve. And Perarina dropped one place from the start. Still a podium position, still a good result for Impulse Racing. And with not many drivers around Perarina, we'll be happy with, well, I assume he'll be happy with a good position so far in this race, and just seeing if he can reel in first and second. Nemethi in fourth place here, with Timo Hayden just behind in fifth place. Has got the German to worry about, the other Impulse Racing driver. And in fact, Race Clutch Racing, in fact, are sandwiching Impulse Racing right now. Fourth and sixth in front and behind Hayden. Taking a look is Peter Zuber to the right-hander of turn 2. Now into turn 3. This might be a very good move. What was that, Ed?
I was about to say, yeah, this is looking very good, isn't it, for Peter Zuber. He's been closing down the past a few laps, and this is, I think, the time for him to start going for the position. He goes to the inside, then is forced to the outside. Is he going to try and squeeze potentially No, he doesn't. He doesn't try and force Timo Hayden to take a very narrow line into the corner and slow him down. Instead, gives plenty of racing room and allows Timo Hayden to have the inside line and hold the position. But look at this. The cutback trying to come through. Is he going to pull it off? He's going to sweep around the outside. He's got the speed, a little bit of a twitch on the exit, though. He loses out just to Timo Hayden, but that was good, close racing between the pair of them. Drivers giving racing room, not much else, and that provides us with brilliant entertainment for a moment, though. I'm not sure if you were thinking the same thing that I did when as soon as I saw Peter Zuber have that slight switch on the exit, I was worried that was going to be all over for the both of them.
Yeah, I think Race Clutch Racing definitely had probably the hands over their face with a split between their fingers, just keeping an eye on the action, whilst not wanting to watch it. But yeah, Zuber very, very nearly pulling off an excellent move in the infield there, but didn't quite happen. We'll have to try again later corner, but all this happening, Nemethi actually stretches away a little bit with a back marker between himself and Timo Hayden behind. In fact, Hayden has now passed the 1-2-4 car. If my eyesight serves me right, Zuber is going to make his way past as well. But yeah, this is, well, from here on, and in fact it started from quite a long way back. Back markers negotiating through traffic. It's going to be a crucial part of this race. Could be what decides finishing positions for a lot of these drivers. And let's just have a little check-in on the front. Lawal getting past more back markers. Guerrero not too far behind. It's the 1-1-1 car of Mato Lenes. In fact, this is the worst place on the track to be stuck behind someone and switch the rear end. Had to take evasive action, nearly put it on the grass, which in these cars on iRacing really does shift the rear end out and is almost a race ending situation. That was a very close call for Guerrero, flashing his lights frantically at Matteo in front. Try and get closer and closer towards turn 2, outbraking on the inside of the yellow and black car, the stage 1 racing machine, and gets past the back marker, but that might have lost a bit of time from Lawal. In fact, it may have done so. Just to check on the gap between them, 2.5 seconds now, so yeah, quite a bit to make back up for Guerrero.
Yeah, definitely. That's certainly how it played into the hands, though, of Irola Laval. And doing a bit of housekeeping, I've had a look at the YouTube chat. Porsche Sport there. Good to see you, Porsche Sport. Asking how many Porsches. Well, there was one at the start of the race, but you missed it. It peeled off into the pits. Let the LMP2s have a chance of winning the race. It was doing very well in the front for, well, the minute it was there, and then decided, you know what, I've had my fun. I'll let the others have a go.
Oh, Ed, there we go. You can have a classic dad joke of the day. Yep. Unfortunately, no Porsches. They're all Dalaras. In fact, let's find out what type of Dalara it is. It is the P217 class, as you can see in the top left logo there, referred to as LMP2s, Le Mans prototypes. There is an LMP1 on iRacing as well in the form of a Porsche. So maybe that's what. Maybe that's what we'll get one day from Apex Technologies, working its way up. It was last season, it was the GT3s, and this season we're on the LMP2s. And all of them, as I said, are Dalaras. Quite a difference in pace between the LMP1s and the LMP2s. Something we're noticing here is a lot of drivers, they're all on an equal pace. I mean, there's differences in setups, gear ratios, wing settings, ride height at speed, all sorts of things like that they can adjust on these cars to get the advantage on the cars around them in their categories, etc. But all cars relatively similar on pace, as they are the same manufacturer. There's nothing like Formula 1 or mixed manufacturer series such as TCR or anything like that, where cars have certain advantages. It is all a fairly level playing field. It is up to the drivers to get themselves quicker through setups.
Yeah, definitely through setups and hard work and practice, which I think is what's been able to see Ibola Laval have this degree of pace from last season. He was alright in the LMP2 last season, had some good results, but nothing to the level of what we're seeing now, leading the race by quite a comfortable margin, it have to be said, ahead of Mauricio Queiro, who is 2.3 seconds back from the race lead. Still can see our race leader there, making his way through the traffic as well. Abel looks through onto back marker traffic, but has to back out of the move. Instead, slot in behind and then look for the move going through the Parabolica. But, well, that battle is going to come back, I think, between Timo Hayden and Peter Zuber now, because they're close once more. You can see Timo Hayden, he's actually close as well to Benson Nemethi for race clutch. So, like you said, there is a definite race clutch sandwich here. This is going to be very tricky for Timo Hayden to try and navigate, because it's almost certain that these two drivers, they're going to work together with one another. Oh, Peter Zuber very late on the brakes, a late lunge. Is he going to pull it off? Oh my word, he's been able to do it. He's got his car on the inside, but tight line and the amount of slowing down he had to take into it meant his exit was always going to be compromised. Lewis is out there, but great awareness, you have to say, from Timo Hayden to give the space at the last second.
Yes, and one of the big advantages of iRacing is you get a very, very accurate spotter in your ear to let you know a car is alongside. And Hayden listened very, very well to that. It was I'm not sure if it was outbraking himself from Zuber or if it was an intentional move. But yeah, the race clutch drivers got Hayden in a bit of a sandwich here. And I'm sure coming out of the hairpin, Zuber would have been thinking, come on, Bence, move over and give me a slipstream. As we saw, Nemethi probably was none the wiser, focusing on in front of him to stay ahead of Hayden. If these two drivers can get together in the form of 4th and 5th, they can probably work on getting further up the field ahead of him, because Perarina is not too far ahead of them. In fact, if we look, it's coming onto the Parabolica now. There is a big couple of seconds between them, but certainly nothing they can't catch up as the race goes by. It's a long way to go. We're nearing the halfway points with near 55 minutes expired, 37 laps completed. And plenty more to go, plenty more action to see.
Yeah, definitely is all down the inside. Timo Hayden's going for it. Is he going to pull it off? Just about. Is his exit going to be good enough as well? Yes, it is. And all the two, I think the two race clutch cars were looking like they were going to start battling with one another. Timo Hayden then has to cover the inside, because look around the outside. Benson Nemethi is going for it. Is he going to stick it around the outside? He is. He's going to have the inside line then for the right-hander. And I think that could be the position being made back. So great determination there by Benson Nemethi to hold on. But there's contact. Peter Zuber and Benson Nemethi contact. Isn't Peter Zuber, that was Benson Nemethi and Timo Hayden. My mistake. And that has allowed Peter Zuber to clear on through. I want to see a better replay of that to see exactly what happens here. Timo Hayden, he looks to the inside. Does he just turn in a little bit too late? Does Nemethi turn in too early? You can't see again from that angle, but it looks like they were going to try and make it a 3 wide and a 3 into 1. Well, definitely does not go.
Well, yeah, it turned into a 3 wide situation at the last minute, and Nemethi, when he sees the replay of that, he will not be happy with his teammate, potentially, as it was Zuber who made it into a 3 wide situation. Has managed to get ahead of Hayden subsequently. Hayden with a little bit of damage on the car, which on these cars will compromise the speed, definitely. But Timo Hayden, yeah, trying to squeeze in the middle up the inside, and it just didn't work for any of the 3 drivers. All came together in the end. And it's a shame to see that, but it really does shuffle up this order. Zuber now moves up to 4th place. Hayden remains in 5th place, granted with a little bit of damage on board. Hasn't got anyone imminently behind trying to make moves. Jamie Conway, the nearest, who has moved up 7 places now, with a lot of drivers falling off ahead, has gained right up towards the top 5. And with Hayden potentially with damage on the car, minor bodywork damage compared to Nemethi, certainly. And let's just keep an eye on Nemethi, as he hit the wall relatively hard on the rear.
I think he's been able to get away with it. Though,
yeah, it doesn't appear to be that much bodywork damage, but might have got away with that.
I think he got very lucky, because he did hit the green sort of softer tyre barriers, whereas if you go into something like an Armco or a concrete barrier in iRacing, well, you're you're out of luck there. You're going to be completely damaged. Whereas iRacing's softer tyres, if you have a side-on impact like Benson Mathy did, it doesn't seem to damage the car all that much. If you hit the front of the car, you are going to get some damage, but I think Benson Mathy just got away with it there. Timo Hayden as well. You can see a little bit of damage, I think, on the front left-hand side. But aside from that, this car doesn't look too bad. In fact, even from that angle, it doesn't look too damaged either. So maybe all drivers somehow managed to get through that without too much damage. And then that also tells me, was there a bit of netcode that we didn't see? It was still not the easiest angles that we were given by iRacing on the replays. So maybe Timo Hayden got away with that just a little bit in terms of no damage. Meanwhile, someone that isn't quite getting away with it, getting away with the race victory, is Ibola Laval, who now peels into the pits. Lets Mauricio Guerrero through, and his pit on the 58-minute mark. I don't think he's going to be able to make it till the end of the race, you know.
Yeah, this isn't looking good from High Caliber Autosport's perspective, as pitting a minute and a half or so early from what you would call the milestone. So this certainly doesn't bode well in what would be a three-stop strategy in the race, this being the second of three. It might well turn into four for a while. Looking to Guerrero, who is now the race leader. I mean, by the time he reaches, I believe will reach the pit straight, the timer will tick over 1 hour, and that'll be the cue to pit, as it enables Guerrero to only need one more stop after this next one we're probably going to see. But yeah, Guerrero will probably have dollar signs in his eyes seeing Lowell head into the bits. Let's just keep an eye on Lowell. See, already out onto the track.
He's come out into traffic.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt him as well.
Absolutely. Now Guerrero probably will get a bit of an overcut potentially on Lowell, and it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. Let's tune back in with Guerrero. Does he come into the pits? Yes, he does. A late move for the pits, granted, but trying to utilise as much corner speed as possible. So we have got a race position 1 showdown in the pits, similar to what we see in Formula 1 and many race series. But let's see how these drivers get on. Guerrero is in the pits right now. We have got Lowell fairly far down the order in terms of positions, because not many drivers have pitted yet, but coming through the Mercedes arena now into the Satch's curve. A lot of traffic ahead. This will be far from ideal for Lowell. I believe that is Alvaro Gutierrez ahead in the Iridium Motorsports car. So Guerrero still in the pits.
Guerrero's taken tyres. I do not think we saw Ibola Laval take tyres. No, he's cleared on through. So different in strategy. That is very big, isn't it? Between, well, what was second place, Guerrero now dropping down the order because of the nature he's taken tyres right on the halfway mark, and with half the race gone, well, you know the rest. Is plenty to go still, and into the final, well, now 58.5 minutes. Guerrero's got a big gap to try and make up.
Yes, and with traffic to negotiate, it's going to be very difficult for Guerrero to do that, particularly that him and Lowell are on a very similar pace as we've seen throughout the entire race. But Lowell keeping old rubber on board, you've got to say his lap times be compromised. I mean, well, or will they? We'll have to find out. But this is a bold move from Lowell, who I don't think took on tyres on the first stop either, because that was a fairly quick pit stop as well. We haven't got the data to show us how quick it was, unfortunately, but we were presuming anyway that these cars would do at least an hour on these tyres anyway. So yeah, bold call from the team Lowell. But let's just see how they get on as time goes by. The next pit stop, expect that at around 1 minute 30, but the fact remains that, well, it's not fact, but we did see Lowell come into the pits just before the halfway marker, so whilst staying out on old rubber is one thing to think about, it's fuel that is the other to think about at this point in the race, as we are predicting that Lowell will need to come in the pits twice still.
Maybe that's the reason why Lowell hasn't taken tyres, is because he realises that he's going to be short on fuel to the end of the race. So by not taking tyres, it spends about 30 seconds in the pit lane taking a full set of tyres. That means that Lowell has that 30 seconds that he's going to have to take in a splash and dash run through the pits, and splash and dash run through the pits will probably come to about 30 seconds lost, maybe 20 seconds. So he does have margins to work with. That's probably the only way I can see Lowell winning the race, is by not taking tyres, because if he takes tyres and has a splash and dash, that's him really out of contention. So he's rolling the dice. Let's see if it will work out for him. The number 14 car has got a big order to do, and if Ibola can save fuel on this thing, he's certainly going to have to do it, because into the last half of the race he is short. We both mentioned that, didn't we? The fact that he pitted with around about 58 minutes gone, 1.5 minutes to the milestone. Wasn't looking good for Lowell, but this could be his saving grace. Comes past all the cars in the pit lane. I think most drivers, like you mentioned, are doing the strategy where you take tyres at the midpoint. Drivers trying different strategies, but I think when we see Mauricio Queiro...
Oh, and Lowell has been involved in contact! Now, who was that car ahead? I couldn't quite tell the number, but let's get a replay of that. My word, a lot of incidents go through. So, Lowell involved in an incident. In fact, this clicked on the wrong one. Let's try that again. So, the 128 car, not sure who that is, but Lowell just coming out wide, and crossing lines, I'm not too sure, but yeah, Lowell that certainly won't help, particularly when we were talking about strategy just then. Luck has hit Lowell.
That was Kevin Abbey, I think, wasn't it, that was involved in the 128 car. And is there damage now to the rear of that car? This car is so sensitive to damage, especially at the rear. It doesn't look too happy on the throttle coming out of this corner. I mentioned last season Lowell didn't have the best luck, and unfortunately I think that's followed him. It's really unfortunate, but you can see the car, it doesn't look too happy. Something seems to be up with it. He's just nursing it through. Look at that, as soon as he gets on throttle, just fighting it all the way through.
Yeah,
this is bad. This is really bad for Lowell.
And he's coming into the
pits. That is going to really hamper his chances at a race victory. Look at that, he's also got massive steering damage. No fast repairs in this series. That could be his race over.
Yeah, it could be a huge offset in the steering wheel, and that's not a quick fix. As you said, Ed, no fast repair. Fast repair is basically, well, we'll call it magic, where the car miraculously repairs itself, but not in this series. He'll have to sit in the pits for X amount of time. So this, well, no one wants to win a race by any form of default or anything like that. But Guerrero has been given a bit of a lifeline here, will now be out on his own. And what was looking like a pretty exciting strategy from Lowell, where it was either a stroke of genius or a shot in the foot, actually it's not going to, well, we're not going to find out in this race anyway. But leaves the pits now, so it might not have been a particularly long repair time. Let's see how the steering wheel looks. It's still not looking good, is it? Yeah, look how far to the right it's going. Let's see how it stabilizes through the corner here.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'd be comfortable driving that car for the remaining hour of the race. Not only are you just going to be so damaged, look, he's turning the steering wheel to the right, but the car's moving left. I'd be more concerned as well about how stable my car is for other cars on the circuit. And I think Lowell, he's going to take that decision. It's a tough one to make. No driver wants to retire, but unfortunately Lowell has been forced into that decision just by the damage of the car. But credit to him, he didn't carry on being a danger to other cars on track. Gave it a test out after having a little bit of repairs to see if it would be fixed, unfortunately, it wasn't. So, Mauricio Queiro comes through leading this race for Punto CL Racing, and like you mentioned, it's sort of been gifted to him in a sense. He didn't have to fight Ibarra for it, but still can't take that away from the performance we've seen from him. He's been absolutely on it since the start, and he's gained 4 positions to be where he is. And considering how dominant we saw some of the qualifying performances and how quick the drivers are, to make up those positions early doors isn't too easy.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, just to finish off, we were talking about the Wild there. Yeah, credit to him for not giving up as well. You know, just trying to take the car back out, trying to get championship points. That was probably on his mind. Flashbacks of last season, of course, which you've mentioned time and time again tonight, where, you know, luck just hasn't been in his favour in recent races and seasons, but yeah, it just strikes again in this race. But I'm sure we'll see Lowell bounce back with huge pace and huge potential that we've seen the next race in 1 week's time at VIR, Virginia International Raceway, one of my favourite tracks on iRacing. But for the time being, we must move on. 1 minute 8 completed, 46 laps completed. Mauricio Queiro is our race leader, 4 places gained, as Ed mentioned, which is, considering how good these drivers at the front are, is an impressive performance. We have also got Pereira in 2nd place, back to where he started, so he'll be pleased with that. With Queiro ahead, clean track ahead of, around them, both of them, might be able to make up some ground. This Whiskey has moved up to 6 places, so a good middle section of the race for the Brazilian driver of FuelTech Esports, making up the podium, promoted to the podium with the retirement of Lowell. We've got Peter Zuber involved in an incident a couple of laps ago with none other than Timo Hayden, who is now back behind the Hungarian driver. That's the top 5, and we've got Callum Wright in 6th place at the moment. 10 places gained. The High Calibre Autosports driver now waving the flag for the team in the highest position of the team. 6th place for him. His teammate Lowell now out of the race, which we've just seen. Hometown hero, well, not hometown hero, but host team in the host championship, Apex Tech Racing, Jamie Conway in 7th place at the moment. There's an incident up ahead, that's the 176 car. Let's just see if we can find who that was.
Is that Alvaro? Was that Alvaro Fernandez?
Yes,
that was. So Iridium Motorsport getting a big lockup, wasn't that? It's so easily done though, isn't it? Into that corner, just misjudging your braking point. Oh, actually no, it didn't. There was collision. Whoa.
Yeah, there was a large amount of that dirty word net code, but yeah, contact between the 2 drivers there, and that sent Alvaro Montes into the barrier there, and a little bit of a connection issue while doing that, which would not make him comfortable at all. But
heavy damage on the rear of the car. I think he's able to keep going. I thought that was going to be his race over, but he's kept going. Look at that, the left-hand side completely crumpled at the rear. Let's see, has this got any steering angle damage? Because we saw that happen, didn't we, to Ibo Laval with a similar incident contact at that sort of rear end of the car. You can go on board maybe and see what the steering angle is like. And it just seems fine, which probably is a bit more of a kick in the teeth to once race leader Ibo Laval, considering the similar incident saw him forced to retire, but Alvaro, with that incident, potentially even more damage from the looks of it outside the car, is able to carry on.
Yeah, a little bit of a lifeline awarded to the Spaniard. A little sideways coming out of the left-hander there. Still not entirely comfortable. It's a very sideways Dallara indeed. It is looking very tentative through some of these corners. I mean, as the life on these tyres gets longer and longer, and the more damage you have on these cars, of course, it will affect it more and more. but Alvarez seems to be staying out for the time being. Oh no, actually comes into the pits. So, and spins in the pit lane, and that's just how bad that car, the state of that car is right now. Slipped it sideways in the pit lane, and yes, definitely the right call to come in the pits and get it repaired.
Yeah, absolutely. Very smart thinking there to avoid the sort of the damage, I guess, avoid being a hazard on circuit. Of Fernandez Montes comes into the pits to hopefully have his car repaired, and maybe we'll see him at the end of the race. There's a lot of damage on the rear of the car, but I'm certain that we'll see him later on. Meanwhile, though, further in front, race leader is still this man, Mauricio Queiro, the Chilean driver from Punto CL Racing. Having a great time of things, as to be said, up in front. Not really seen too much room since he's gotten into the race, but I guess silence is better than loud, noisy crashing, so good for him. Meanwhile, you're seeing second place in the AM class, James Ebram here. And who's that for company? Well, it's his teammate, Drew Lloyd, and they are in different classes. Drew Lloyd in the pro class, James Ebram in the AM. Maybe we'll see a change of position. Maybe we'll see the two drivers swap with one another.
Absolutely, and in fact, James Ebram might be under a little bit of pressure from, again, from Christopher Stahl behind. Not too far behind at all, but these two have been fairly close throughout the race. We might see a battle erupt between them at some point, particularly as they have to negotiate pit stops and traffic throughout the race. Let's see who else, what else is going on. Let's have a check-in on the driver that had a little bit of bad luck a few laps ago, Benson Amethi, down in 10th place at the moment, trying to make up places. There's a little bit of battling ahead between Cal Queen and Peter Molnar. In fact, Molnar was one of the drivers involved in the incident with Nemethi, both teammates, and Molnar gets himself into 8th place ahead of Cal Queen. Tries to find the outside again. Tries an undercut now coming out the corner, but no, it seems that Molnar has a lot more grip coming out of that corner, and one Punto CL Racing machine has been taken by a race clutch machine, is in trouble with another very shortly after, in the form of Benson Nemeth, who seems to be going okay in that car that did hit the wall some laps ago. So Nemethi, luckier than others in this race, is able to keep it going. As we see the Cosworth steering wheel there negotiate the final part of this brilliant lap of Hockenheim. A little bit of sideways correction on the wheel there. Close on the rear, through turn 1 we go.
Just looks so fun, doesn't it, when you're on board in these cars, doesn't it, Alex?
It does, yeah. It's terrifying in a way. It is so quick through these corners. The aerodynamic on these cars are very, very impressive, and it's actually making me want to have a go at these. I'm more of a GTE fan, so doing the IMSA Haggerty series on iRacing, I do see a lot of these LMP2s coming past me, and it is just incredible to watch. And look at this, we got a move from Cal Queen on the inside.
I think that was a very kind move there, because I think those were teammates going wheel to wheel with others. That was Mauricio Cal Queen getting ahead of Christian Eisler, and now Cal Queen, well, he's going to try and focus on a fight between himself and Benson Amethi now. We've got Punto Racing against Race Clutch. You can see the sort of the red and blue car again, a nice deep blue on the back of the shark fin. Does look like a very nice paint indeed. Can it go quick? That's the main question. That's the main thing that we're seeing this evening. Able to pull a little bit of a margin actually through that last little bit of the lap is bent. So seems to be where his car is stronger, is through that sector. Whereas, well, Horatio Calkeen loses out a little bit, now back by the tune of 1 second. Back marker traffic up ahead though, so they've got that to navigate. Oh, of course, going to see and keep it nice and safe. That's the most important thing, isn't it? Getting through nice and safely, and I guess in a sense making sure you can not lose out too much time, because if you can get through the back marker traffic quickly, then other drivers that struggle will slow down, lose time, and you'll be able to build up margins a lot easier than just having to send it through every corner and rely on hot laps.
Yes, absolutely. And we've just got to take a look at a replay. There's an instant further back in the field. Justin Yoon. Oh, and a spin. Oh, everything that could have gone wrong for Justin there did go wrong. And rejoined the track very, very safely. Credit to Justin. But a spin there that we half saw. With a slight technical difficulty on Justin's machine. But Justin's in 41st at the moment from what I can see on the timing screen. And let's get back with the action and check in with our leaders. We've got Perarina still in second place, lapping the 171 car. And we've got Guerrero not too far ahead. Let's just take a look at the gap between them. It's a bit hard to tell when it doesn't tell you what the gap is between them, but yeah, if we compare just by the cameras here,
there's about 10 seconds between the pair of them there.
Yeah, all can be made up in a pit stop, a gamble potentially as drivers do or don't take on tyres, as we did see a glimpse of the 1 hour mark.
Absolutely, although I think for now, I think we've seen all of the tyres being changed. It doesn't make sense to change the tyres right at the end because you lose 30 seconds, and in that final stint, you've got to somehow make up 30 seconds over the course of, well, 30 minutes, which I don't think we'll be expecting drivers to do. Oh my word, who is that getting all sorts of out of shape in the background? Was that Kamal Hashimi potentially having a little bit of an off-track excursion in the background? I think it might have been. Comes back though, nice and safely in the end. Yes, it was Kamal Hashimi for Apex Tech Racing. So, is it just, lose the rear of the car, slides it through? I'll tell you what, that's a very good rejoin.
Well, Hashimi has been one of my favourite drivers today. He's been been the showman today. But yeah, a very, very miraculous save there to keep the car going on all fours and out of the wall and back onto the black stuff, the tarmac. Brilliant save from Hashimi, got to be said. But meanwhile, back towards the front, another rundown of the order. Guerrero still leads, getting past the lap traffic a lot easier than it has been in past laps. Perarina in second place there. Peter Zuber not too far behind, around about the same gap between first and second as there is between second and third. Zuber has got traffic to negotiate here. Cars in the way, the 111 machine ahead of Metals Molinaz, and in fact Molinaz probably didn't know that Zuber was coming up the inside, had to evade. Zuber maintains position there in fourth place. Timo Hayden not too far behind now. Timo, it did look like it was going all wrong a couple of laps ago. That instant we saw just back then in the Mobile 1 curve, and we did see a car go off there. I think it might have actually been Hashimi again, but yeah, just to carry on through the order, we have got Lisa Whiskey flashing lights frantically at Matthias in front, and Matthias goes into the pits.
I thought for a moment there was going to be contact there, drivers trying to take different lines going into the pits, not going into the pits, but Lazowski was aware and was able to keep his car nice and out of the way. Meanwhile, look at that, massive amounts of speed being taken there. That's definitely an off track for Lucas Libakov. Jamie Conway though comes through. This is fighting all the way through. That's 8th place Peter Molnar, the race clutch. And, well, the margins, some are big in the top 10, others close down. I think Peter Zuber is getting very close to Timo Hayden. In fact, there's a change of position. Timo Hayden is looking to try and go around the outside. Zuber holds the inside, holds firm in third place. This is for the final podium place, so plenty at stake for these drivers. Look at this around the outside. Oh, I thought for a moment Timo Hayden was going to try and brake late and send it through. Isn't able to put it off just yet. Look at how close they're getting, though, nose to tail as they make their way through into the Mobile 1 curve. Diving through here, using plenty of the runoff, carrying the speed through, but for now there's no real chances to overtake at this area of the circuit. Instead, your best bet is to wait, be patient, You either go into the Eintracht Parabolica or into the tight hairpin at the end of that long back straight.
And Timo Hayden was a fair attempt at third place. The podium's in his sights with less than half the race to go. We're getting towards pit stop number 3, which will come in less than 8 minutes time for many drivers. And Timo Hayden, now being behind Zuber, will be thinking about when to come into the pits. And we are anticipating that the pit windows fall on the half-an-hour marks in this race. So a little bit of time to sit behind Zuber, and 8 minutes. I mean, if you can get past in that time, that will certainly benefit the German driver, easing up on the parabolic straight and into the hairpin there. But let's keep our eyes on this battle. It very, very nearly, well, it did get a little intense between them, but Timo has to try again for another corner, another lap. And it certainly seems that drivers, it might be a setup thing, but there's drivers who are handling one half of the circuit better than the other. It might be a downforce thing where you want low downforce on the faster part of the track, the second half of the track, and where you want more downforce on this part of the track that we're seeing Timo and Peter Zuber go through right now.
Yeah, it's all about where you decide to make your lap time, and of course, having a car with low downforce does make you a lot harder to be passed on those top speed sections, the areas where you're most likely to see drivers making moves at the end of those long straights. So maybe that's where we've seen certain drivers try their setups to have a bit less downforce than you'd expect to. Potentially other drivers might sacrifice their straight line speed and instead hope that if they can have good pace, good hot lapping ability, extra downforce as well to easily lap traffic, maybe that is going to be their key to getting through this race. Meanwhile, well, we're following Rodrigo Lizowski because he's got a car behind him. I think that is Jamie Conway in Apex Tech Racing. Yes, it is closing in as they make their way into the hairpin. Lifting and coasting though, you can definitely hear it on board with Jamie. He's saving fuel. He wants to be able to make that pit window, pitting on the 1.5 hour mark. If you decide to go in the pits a little bit earlier, that might mean you're unsafe. And in fact, it probably would mean that you're unsafe towards the end of the race and being able to pull off that strategy. So, what can Jamie Conway manage? He's got a car in front that can save a bit of fuel, lifting, coasting behind. As you want the track position coming into the pits, but he might be able to get it here because very slow. That is Lizowski there, losing out a little bit in the Fuel Tech Esports team. And again, the cutback, brilliant stuff from Jamie Conway. He's able to get that move. Nicely done there from the 42 car. But that was close, wasn't it? That was all kicked off by that one mistake by Rodrigo Lizowski. And you could just see him start to come apart after that point. The pressure was just getting to him too much.
Absolutely. Jamie Conway through into 6th place, 7 places gained from his starting position at the beginning of the race. Waving the flag for Apex Tech in this race, certainly. But he'll be very pleased with how he's getting on in this race so far. It's fairly close between 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th is not too far behind in the form of Peter Molnar. And let's just have a little check-in with the AM category. We have got... it is mixing things up a little bit with our standings, but I believe our leader in the AM category is still Christian Radatz, and behind is James Ibram in 2nd place, just ahead of Christopher Stahl. These two have been battling a lot in this race and are still going at it. So Stahl here, closer than we have seen him be, and a slightly defensive manoeuvre from Ibram to cut off the slipstream on this small straight as we now go through the right and left onto the Parabolica. Let's see if Stahl will close in down this long section here. Probably not close enough to make a move, or am I going to second guess myself? No, not quite. This is the battle for 2nd place in the AM category at the moment. Not quite close enough to make a move yet, but this is a battle that has raged on when it comes to gaps all the way through this race. It is extended, it is shrunk, But when are we going to see some moves from these two drivers, as there's a small mistake from Ibram, and in fact in turn made Stahl make a mistake himself. A bit of a skip across the curb, and that extends the gap between them. And yeah, these top three in the AM category are a long way ahead of fourth in category, which is Mark Winters. All the way back here, nearly the beginning of the lap in the fluorescent green digital downforce racing livery there. And 14 places gained overall for Winters so far in this race. A brilliant showing from him today. And yes, the AM category certainly one we're going to keep an eye on, as Radat is leading the way at the moment through pit stops, has managed to get himself in the lead of this category. Flash of the lights from the car behind, not happy with something that Radat has done. But the gap between Radat and Ibram is that much. It is just a couple of seconds, and let's see if we can find a gap between them. 5-second gap, so it isn't biting distance, but it might be something that comes down with pit stops, with lap times, with battling in traffic.
Yeah, definitely. They're all trying to navigate the same traffic, aren't they? They're all trying to get through as quickly as they can, but for the moment, James Ibram is doing very well in the AM class, currently in second place. Not closing down too much, though, on Christian Radatz. I think Christian Radatz has around about 4 to 5 seconds gap over Ibram, so that is currently the state of play in the AM class. But it could all change, isn't it? If Christopher Stahl and James Ibram start battling, start slowing each other down, that gives Christian even more margin to work with come the end. But well, the drivers carry on for one further lap. Other drivers coming into the pits, and I think that is Radatz coming into the pits just before the 1.5 hour mark. So I don't think that'll be enough for Christian. He might lose out here come the end of the race.
Well, this is very interesting. So this is the point where we need to really pay attention to these pit stops now. Guerrero comes through to complete another lap and will hit what we're going to call the deadline of 1.5 hours completed with the half an hour intervals that we mentioned. But yes, in the pits, Christian Radatz before the timer hits 1 hour 30. So a big risk from Radatz, running high revs. To change fuel in these cars, the best thing to do is to change your engine map setting or run in a higher gear. So that is something that Radatz might have to do more than any other driver, and it's certainly his rivals in the AM category in the form of Christopher Stahl and James Ibram. Just to check on them, there they are. And I do believe that Radatz is taking on tyres, because this is a relatively long pit stop at the moment for the Chilean driver.
It is very long indeed. Christian Radatz spending plenty of time stationary as James Ibram now comes through for what could be about to lap him. So something must have happened. I think Radatz now finally goes on to pit exit. James Ibram carries on for one further lap, whereas Christopher Stahl comes in right now. So Christopher Stahl opting to pit earlier, potentially going for an undercut maneuver here. Going to be taking in all of the fuel he can fit. Christian Radatz out on circuit in fourth place. See what he can do to catch back up, but that's a lot of time that he lost from that long pit stop.
Yeah, I will assume it was full fuel and all 4 tyres Christian was taking on there. Perhaps this is what has made Radatz jump into the lead, is not taking tyres on earlier in the race. These are the strategies at play from these drivers in this 2-hour race. So you know, there's plenty to keep our eye on, but we'll have to see what James Ibram does. Let's keep an eye on the German driver of third place driver in the AM category, Christopher Stahl, coming out of the pits. So a much less time spent in the pit stall from Stahl, and does get the jump on Radatz. In fact, the gap is that much. It is nearly half the track. So Radatz this isn't a race-winning move we're seeing from him, is it? Taking on the tyres, but he probably had to. Oh, he runs very, very wide coming out the final corner there. But maybe Radas did take the risk of, staying out on the rubber a bit longer earlier on in the race. At this point in the race, though, you've got to say that Stahl and even Ibram probably do have the advantage at this point when it comes to time if they're not taking on tyres.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see, James Ibram, he is still stationary in the pits. When will he get up and running? Don't forget, Christopher Stahl was close to him before the pit stops were made. So let's see what the difference is. He's just coming through the left-hander now through the shaft curve. Got a couple more corners to go. James Ibram is already on pit exit. He's actually just moving towards it now. So what is the difference? Christopher Stahl is coming out of the final corner now. It is going to be very close, but I think Christopher Stahl is just going to have it here. You can see him sweeping around the left-hand side of your screens now. Christopher Stahl takes the AM lead, but for how long? Because James Ibram, he's not going to take that sitting down. He's going to fight right till the end.
Yeah, and another thing to think about, whilst there's only one lap difference between these two perks of these drivers' strategies right now, Ibram will have fresher rubber later on in the race by 1 lap, granted, and lighter fuel, so that might play in a little bit of an advantage with these two drivers who are fairly deadlocked when it comes to pace. They're inseparable throughout this race so far. So the battle for AM is on between these drivers, and we must switch to the pro category as Quero has already taken his pit stop. With this pro category, there's not that much to keep an eye on with the pit stops, as they're all fairly dispersed now in this race. Quero is a long way out in the lead ahead of Pereira, but it is Bacigalupo who is the last of the top 10 to pit, I believe, and this will relinquish the lead back to Quero. So yeah, the pit stop's really telling the tale in this race now. The top 3 is unchanged in the pro category as Zuba comes out of the pits, still in 3rd place, still just ahead of Timo Hayden. That turquoise livery is not leaving his mirrors anytime soon. We have got Drew Lloyd in 6th place. He's managed to get ahead of Jamie Conway through the pit stops, his teammate. Conway not too far behind, still in 7th place, but these Apex Tech racing drivers, although they're on home turf, when it comes to the league, they're actually having a very good race here, high up in the standings in 6th and 7th, but they've moved up a lot of positions in this race as well.
Yeah, they certainly are. Nice racing on display though, isn't there? This whole evening has been very entertaining, very clean, as well as we see now Drew Lloyd coming into the pit lane from 8th place. Going to see if he's going to lose it. He's going to lose out to Timothy, who I believe we've already seen come into the pits. It could be close between some of those drivers that pitted earlier till the end. We definitely know that Drew is 100% safe till the end. Other drivers, maybe not so much. Luca Bergli, really bad with names, so Bacigalupo.
That might be correct, actually. Yeah, I think that's correct, actually. Yeah, I've been saying it wrong. Yeah, that's definitely it.
That is the one we're going to stick with, and if it's wrong, then we'll try and get it right for next time.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out.
Doing very well for Punto CL Racing. Currently trying to close the gap to Timo Hayden. Hayden as well. It's been having a good evening's race. Trying to close up to Peter Zuba further in front. But, I mean, Peter Zuba for race clutch has been really just, apart from the incident we saw going through the Mobile 1 curve, just been faultless, hasn't he, really?
Yeah, it's been a solid drive from Zuba today. 3 places gained. The demise of others on some of the places gained, but he's had to really fight for this place, particularly with Hayden, who is still hounding him behind. And Hayden's not going to write off a podium finish here for his team. I mean, it will get 2 Impulse Racing drivers onto the podium. I'm sure he'll want that. And we mentioned it earlier on in the broadcast, where there is a team's championship to think about. So getting as close you can, getting past your rivals and getting as close as you can to your fellow teammates, is the key here. And I believe Impulse Racing will come out of this race as one of the teams at top in the championship. You might also see a good points haul from Apex Tech Racing and Race Clutch we mentioned. Punto CL Racing first and fifth at the moment, so big showing from them. We have to get a replay though. We have a crash further down in the field from Lee Tucker, running too wide and nearly collecting the car behind, and that might be a race ending spin there for the Apex Tech Racing driver. In fact, it is Lee Tucker at this race, unfortunately.
Big shame as well, because Lee was having a good solid drive up until that point. But that just shows, isn't it, that one small mistake can have very drastic consequences. Meanwhile, Timo Hayden, like we were mentioning, up in fourth place, trying to close in to Zuba, but was about 1.5 tenths slower on that previous lap as Zuba navigates some back marker traffic here. And very well indeed. He's been very good at navigating the traffic as well. That's the key thing for him. I haven't really seen Peter Zuba have too many scary moments with traffic. I don't know if you remember any, but it seems to have been just a good, solid, calm, measured drive. Timo Hayden has also been having it, although I remember him having a few worrisome moments at early points in the race. So maybe now he's got that behind him, he can focus on catching up and getting, or trying to get, onto that final podium place.
And don't write off Bacigalupo in that fight for third as well, gaining rapidly on Timo Hayden just ahead there. There is a car in between them in the 128 machine, flashing his lights frantically. He knows third is not too far away. He's going to try his best to get up into the podium spot. So I think there could well be a big battle for that final spot on the podium if the gaps shrink up amongst themselves. And now the car ahead of Bacigalupo is Timo Hayden, and the car ahead of Hayden is Peter Zuba. So now the three-way battle intensifies between these three drivers, one to keep an eye out on later on in the race. But with just over 20 minutes to go, here is your race leader, Mauricio Guerrero of Punto CL Racing. 4 places gained from the start. Was looking like a big prospect for the win right from the word go. Picking off one driver one by one. And while getting the retirement earlier certainly did help him out. He was looking rather savvy for that position. As it comes to lap an Apex Tech Racing car, the 108 machine of James Ibram, second in the AM. So these two drivers just ahead are in their own race themselves, so Guerrero's got to be very careful. And in fact, Ibram lets by the Chilean driver, and that does compromise a little bit of a gap between himself and Stahl just ahead there, coming around the final corner. But now the AM category drivers about to fall a lap down, which means 1 lap less on their fuel tanks, which will certainly help if they're risking a pit strategy where they're pitting just before the milestone marker, which I think we did see from James Ibram, if I remember rightly. I might be wrongly, but a couple of cars ahead here of Ibram to contend with.
A lot of it as well, though, does come down to the race time. You feel more for the time, I believe, rather than lapsed in these LMP2 cars. As we see now down the inside, Christopher Stahl goes through on some back marker traffic. But I've been having a look as well on my close screens, and I want to shine a little bit of light on 7th placed Fernando Teixeira, who's gained a grand total of 30 places since the start of the race. They've started all the way back down the order. In fact, he's gained 28 places. Has he gained 28? Let's have a look. He's gained about 28 places. Currently sitting on my timing in 15th place. I'm not sure if my timing is all thrown out of whack or what, but still, credit to him. He's had a great performance this evening. See what he can do at this stage, because it's been just so good, isn't it, at the moment for Fernando. And So hope he can carry this on till the end, as we do now come past the 41-minute mark. So yeah, like you mentioned, now only 38 minutes till the end of the race. Not 38, 28 minutes.
There we go.
No, but 18.
Yeah, 18.
I won 3 times.
Never mind, third time lucky. But yeah, Teixeira, very, very good race and a good showing from Fuel Tech Esports today. Drivers in 6th place in this Whiskey, in 6th place. And Teixeira in, it keeps changing it for me. It keeps saying different positions. There's something very, very strange going on with our timing tower today. Playing tricks on us today, but we'll persevere. Checking back with Quero, he's got a lot of drivers around him to lap. Will probably make him nervous, but at the same time he's got a big lead. He can take his time taking these cars.
Yeah, he certainly can. He has that margin to work with, like he mentioned, but it was a margin that he built up in the early phases of the race, wasn't it? Able to close in and try and fight with Ivo Laval for lead the race. I think that was probably what was spurring him on more than anything else, was that prospect of a fight for the race victory. Being in 2nd place meant that he was taking maybe a few more risks and also pressuring the car that much harder. And now that Ivo Laval had his incident, he suddenly realised, oh, I've got big gaps all those cars behind. That's worked out rather nicely. So Mauricio Quero for Punto CR Racing is having a good evening so far, and he's getting this championship off to a dream start, isn't it? If he can carry this through to win the first race of this new season, certainly going to set him up very nicely for when we go to Virginia in about a week's time.
Yes, Virginia, the next round in 8 days' time, Sunday, the 23rd of May. Tune in to this channel, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook or Twitch. Tune in to the Simracersworld TV channels to catch all the action across this season throughout the summer here on iRacing. But as he said, yes, Ed, a very good start to Quero's championship bid. And in 2nd place, just behind our timing screen, is absolutely lying to us at the moment, as in 2nd place is Diogo Pererina, the Impulse Racing machine there. Peter Zuber in 3rd position there. But we also have Timo Hayden in 4th place to keep an eye on, as these two have battled for much of the race. Bassi Glupo in 5th place here. Jamie Conway's not too far behind either. 7 places gained for him, and Peter Molnar just behind in 7th place with 8 places gained. 8th at the moment, Nemethi, the fellow Hungarian race clutch driver, teammate with Molnar. And Peter Zuber up in 3rd place. So 3 race clutch cars in the top 10 at the moment. We also have Hugo Preto in 9th position in the 77 car. And we have Christian Alza in 10th place. So we descend into the final 15 minutes of the race here. And it seems that the Pro category is fairly set in stone, pending any drama, which hopefully doesn't happen. You certainly don't want to see a driver have anything bad happen to them at this point in the race when they fought so hard for their positions. Most of the drivers in the top 10 have gained places, many places, rather than staying in the positions that they're at. Apart from Pererina here is the only one that's finishing where he started, in 2nd place here. We've also got the AM category to think about as well. Christopher Stahl in 1st place, with 2nd place James Ibram, just a couple of seconds behind. Just passing the cameras then was Christopher Stahl. 3rd place of the AMs at the moment is Christian Redat, who we mentioned a while ago. Who we mentioned a while ago.
Was he the one that spent quite a lot of time in the pits, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, that's right.
Confused about that incident, and I don't know if I had any further light shed on it, because his pit stop time was, I'm just having a look now, 1 minute full on 1 minute in the pits, and it didn't look to me like there was any tyres going on that car. So there must have been something else, maybe a little bit of repair of damage perhaps, but
yeah,
he's still doing very well to get through all of that and still be in 3rd position.
Yeah, come to mention it, yeah, we didn't see the car jack up, so it might have been a tactic from Raditz to repair some damage. I mean, still taking home quite a few championship points in the AM category, sitting in 3rd place. I know our timing screen on here is a little bit confusing at the moment. Sincere apologies for that, but there is a technical issue backstage, so we'll probably have to get sorted before the next race. But rest assured, we do have sources here to relay us the absolute correct standings by the time race ends. Guerrero, your leader at the moment. It's just been a masterclass drive from Guerrero so far in this race, hasn't it, Ed?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, like you mentioned, it's been a great evening's racing for Mauricio Guerrero, and I'm having a look in the chat. You can see Machine Civide. I hope I've got your name right, saying that you've got to appreciate the endurance of these drivers. Yes, absolutely. To go on for 2 hours, and it's right on the verge of being an endurance race or a sprint race, and that you have to treat it in this situation like a sprint. You can't afford to be cautious or lose out time and drive pedestrianly, because you'll just get left behind. You need to basically hot lap every single lap because you've got nothing else to really work with. You can't try and claw back other things through the strategy too much. You can, of course, maybe make a couple of gains here or there, but in terms of the actual ability and the actual pace, you need to be full on, pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, and just absolutely send it, which is what we've been seeing Mauricio Guerrero do all race long. Diego Pereira just coming out of the hairpin, so it just shows the gap between first and second is roughly about 15 or so seconds. And we have a replay here. James Ebram, he was in second place in the AM class. Does he lose out here? Just loops the rear of the car in. Typical LMP2 spin, where they like to sort of over rotate a little bit on you. Keeps it going nice and safely and rejoins without too much fuss.
Yes, and unfortunately for Ibram, it has lost him quite a lot of track position overall anyway, dropping a few places behind Stahl it seems, but ultimately what he has dropped from Stahl is a lot of time. Ibram's still picking up a second position in category, which of course he'll be pleased about somewhat, but what might be on his mind is slipping away a potential win here with just over 10 minutes to go in the race. So yeah, Christopher Stahl will see that on his relative, the relative telling you the gaps between drivers ahead and behind you. You'll see that behind him and will breathe a sigh of relief potentially, as he can now focus on making sure that car gets through the corners safe and sound as he feeds it through towards the end of the race and what could be an AM category win for T3 Esports.
Like you say, we're into the final 10 minutes now. James Ebram, he's lost time from that spin at this corner here, but he gets through this one without spinning it around. But a car in front did spin, and who was that getting it all out of shape? Gabriel Stork, Straight Avenue Esports Racing. I think that was just the curb there, the left-hand side rear wheel, taking a little bit of a touch, and that was just all it needed to help him around, help him loop the car. But looped it a little bit too much, unfortunately. James Ebram, though, I've been saying, showing good pace, but just not enough to take the race lead in AM away from Christopher Stahl. You know what, Christian Raddatz has to get very far out of the way for the 77 car. That is Hugo Preto for Apex Tech Racing getting on through. Good awareness there from Christian Raddatz. It's not worth having to sort of fight and defend those moves, especially so late into the race where the consequences can be massive when you've got no chance to fight back from any poor fortune. You need to just coast it through, take it to the flag.
Absolutely, yeah. And a couple of these drivers taking it through to the flag. A lot of drivers gaining a few positions whilst battling intensely. This battle for third here, not as close as we've seen it in past laps, but Zuba in third place, making his way through lapped traffic there, as is Timo Hayden behind. And the car pulls over to let Hayden through. And just behind Hayden there is Bacigalupo in the Panto CL Racing machine. So big points on offer for Panto CL, as fourth place is on the cards. Timo Hayden, with less than 8 minutes to go, will be looking to hang on to that. I've got a feeling the focus has reverted from trying to get up to third place to trying to hang on to fourth place for the sake of championship points, of course. Only 8 rounds, so every position counts. Oh, and Hayden getting a little bit sideways. A little bump of the curb on the outside there. We were mentioning the drag strip runoff area in the final corner, the south curve there. Hayden getting very, very close to that. A little bit of pressure increasing with the shortening gap between him and Bacigalupo. Come through the parabolic curve now. Let's see how much Lucas can gain on this straight. Not close enough to make a move. It's got to be said. We'll see how much you can reel in Hayden on this part of the track. Not too much, in all honesty. Under braking seems to be where it's done. It does Constantine up under braking, but Bacigalupo putting in a good shift in this final phase of this race, it seems.
Yeah, definitely this final part. This is showing a good turn of pace from Luca Bacigalupo for Panto CL Racing, trying to close into Timo Hayden, who has been performing so good this race. It'd be a shame for him to lose out, but of course Lucas has been having such a good turn of pace that it'd be a shame for him to not get this position in the end. So there's going to be one driver that's going to be unhappy. Which one will it be? Well, we're going to find out, aren't we, in the next, 6 minutes time. Oh my word, this race has flown by action from start to finish, and we're going to see some action here right at the end as well. Very loose at the rear from Timo Hayden. You can see that he's trying to get every ounce of grip out of his Dallara LMP machine that he can, trying to build the margin to Luca Bacigalupo, because coming on to this long parabolica, you can have any margins to work with, it is going to serve you so well going into the hairpin. And I think he does have just enough of a margin to stay in front under the brakes, even with potential back markers up in front. Actually, the 111 car, I think, is that the same 111? That is the car that we've seen. Was that Timo Hayden have incidents with before?
It might have been, yes, the 111 car we have seen involved. Yeah, I think it was involved with, oh, look at this, a move from Bacigalupo going into the infield here. Oh, Timo Hayden not giving him much room on the apex as they come out of the corner safe and sound. And a good run out of the corner from Bacigalupo, and defending hard is Hayden. Going around the right-hander now. Bacigalupo's got to try something else as Hayden nearly runs wide. He's just hung on to that. Intense defending from Hayden there in fourth place. Lap traffic ahead. We were just mentioning the treble one machine in the way of Hayden at the moment. Got to find his way past relatively quickly for the sake of his fourth position. Flashes the lights frantically. As we mentioned, blue flags doesn't necessarily mean yield. It means different things in different series, and the number 111 machine is not getting out of the way as Hayden gets a good exit from turn one. Finds the inside, and Bacigalupo has dropped back a little bit. Will he be able to find the inside of the backmarker machine of the 111 car? Yes, he's managed to find his way past as Hayden slightly touches the grass coming out of the parabolic curve there, and now onto, out of the parabolic bend there, now onto the parabolic curve. Defends the inside, and look at that switch to the inside from Bacigalupo. Timo moves in on him, and it was contact between them, but Lucas Bacigalupo has gained the position for the time being. Timo doesn't seem happy about something, but ultimately he's got to fight back now.
I don't think Timo was too happy about how late that move came, but now it's Timo's turn to get his own back. He parks it just about on the apex. Great little lunge from Timo Hayden. He's been able to pull that off. But they both go defensive down to the inside. Timo covering it off just a little bit more than Luca Bacigalupo was prepared to go. But look at that poor run through the Mobile 1 curve, and that has allowed Bacigalupo to go through. So Bacigalupo able to take 4th position in dramatic fashion, but it's not over yet. There's still 3 minutes left, and it's now Timo Hayden's turn to try and fight back, to try and gain the position.
Oh, excellent battling between these two. A daring move from Hayden, not happy with the move, and look how much he's pushing round turn 1 there. It might have got him a little bit of a slowdown penalty, not too sure, doesn't seem to be, but yeah, a huge lunge up the inside on the infield. One of the biggest moves of the races we've seen. A great battle between these two, a little bit of an intense rivalry it seems, as they were putting in every effort possible. But Bacigalupo has come out in front in 4th place and is pulling away ever so slightly. So yeah, Hayden still in the top 5. He still has a result to be pleased with here. But as we approach 2 minutes to go, Guerrero will soon be starting the final lap. He'll probably get 2 laps as he crosses the line very, very shortly. But yeah, what a race we've had. Now, there's no formal decision behind this. I like to do it when I'm broadcasting anyway. But Ed, I'm going to give this responsibility to you. Who is your driver of the day?
Oh, you've put me on the spot here. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, we've had a great performance all through the field. I mean, it's going to have to be... I mean, Mauricio Guerrero has got to be on the cards for it. He's done very well up to this point to lead the race. But other drivers as well have flown a little bit under the radar, likes of Mark Winters gaining 16 positions. He's had a very good time, I think it's in 21st place, 4th in the AM class. I'm not really sure if I can give it to just one driver. It feels like they've all deserved it. So I'm gonna cop out of this one. I'm gonna say they all deserve it.
Oh no, you can't do that. Look, let's just go for glory, and it's got to be Mauricio Guerrero. Well, that's the decision from the comms box anyway. What a race he's had just from start to finish, gaining positions early on in the race and just picking one by one. But I tell you what, let us know in the comments of the live streams and broadcasts who you think is our driver of the day. Just let us know, and we'll probably give you a shout out if you let us know. But stay tuned once the race has ended, as Guerrero is about to start the final lap. Stay tuned, as we will have a little bit of a race rundown and some interviews at the conclusion of this race, as Guerrero comes around the final corner now to start his final lap. The white flag will wave for Guerrero, as it does there in the background. Through turn 1 he goes, and it's been, we've mentioned it a few times in the last few minutes, been a purely dominant start to the season from Guerrero. Can he carry this over to Virginia International Raceway in 1 week's time? We will find out in 1 week's time. But Guerrero is first at the moment. In 2nd place, our timing standings at the moment, telling a few white lies at the moment, but it is Diogo Pereira who's the source of attention towards the start of this race, involved in the battles early on, particularly with Lawal. And in 3rd place behind, not too far behind in fact, is Peter Zuba. We have got a comment on YouTube. Kevin AB is my favourite driver by EV Craft, and Kevin AB down in 29th place, not too far behind the 2nd place driver. We're just 3rd place driver following there on the involved in a little bit of a scuffle here, getting an undercut there. But let's switch over to our imminent race winner. It's been a brilliant performance from 5th on the grid. Mauricio Guerrero wins race 1 of the season on the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. The checkered flag waves for the Punto Ciel Racing driver. Chile is erupting in cheers at the moment for their driver coming through to win the race. Excellent performance, and Diogo Pereira will come through to finish 2nd for Impulse Racing. Comes across the line to take P2 honours. Peter Zuban, not too far behind in the number 9 machine for Race Clutch Racing, comes across in 3rd place.
Must have been something happened right at the end here, because I've just seen in the AMs, what's this, James Ebram is actually ahead of Christopher Stahl.
Oh, okay.
So something must have happened to Christopher Stahl right at the end. I'm not sure if we've missed that or not. But what drama in the AM category for James Ebram to take the first race victory of the season.
We do have a replay. Actually, let's get a quick look at it. Come on, let's... Okay, it's not letting us have a look at that. Pending. Okay, so we've got James Ebram there. Quite sure.
Already past Christopher Stahl, so I'm not entirely sure what's happened. Maybe Christopher Stahl, did he have an internet dropout or something happened to him? I can't see anything on my iRacing that says anything about that. So, a very strange one indeed. But all the same, that's meant that James Ebram has taken the race victory.
Yes, in the AM category, job well done for Ebram in the final phases of the race. Got past Christopher Stahl, and third place in the AM category in the end was Christian Vradat of Punto CL Racing. So being a good night for Punto CL Racing. They've had drivers finishing 1st, 5th, 11th and 3rd in the AMs, which equates to 20th overall. A good night for the Chilean team. Well, what a race we've had, and we'll go through the classified results very shortly, and we've got some interviews lined up for you, I'm sure. In the meantime, let's run through the race results here. Round 1 at Hockenheim. Mauricio Guerrero takes the win by just shy of 20 seconds ahead of Diogo Pereira in Impulse Racing. Peter Zuba of Race Clutch Racing takes 3rd, about 6 seconds behind Diogo, but in 4th place, a job well done to Jamie Conway, who takes Timo Hayden towards the end there for 4th place. Timo Hayden in 5th place ahead of Peter Molnar in 6th. Bence Nemethi in 7th place with Hugo Preto in 8th position. Juancho Ovale in 9th position, and to round off the top 10 is Christian Eilsler. In 11th place, another Punto CL racing machine, Lucas Bacigalupo. So he must have had drama, which we'll probably try and find out about very shortly. But 11th place for him was running 4th. It's dropped down the order a lot. Might have been a late pit stop. We were talking about that, but we'll come back to that shortly. Bart Horston there in 12th place now. There's a little confusion about what category he's in. I'm sure we'll confirm that for next week.
I believe Horston, sorry to jump in, I believe he is a pro driver. I think we've had some issues though with our timing software, so that should get fixed for next time.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that up, Ed. Yeah, so Bart Horston, 12th at the moment for the pro category. Rodrigo Lisowiski in 13th. Lap down, but still good overall positions. Drew Lloyd in 14th with Callum Wright in 15th. Alvaro Gutierrez in 16th. First of the AMs is James Ebram with Christopher Stahl in 18th place. Jan Burl in 19th place. Third of the AMs is Christian Radatz, rounding out the top 20 overall. Mark Winters in 21st ahead of Roy Mass, followed by his teammate, 23rd overall for Rob Newens. Theo Schleret in 24th for Virtual Best Racing. Carlos Ponche in 25th place. 26th for Adam Proud. 27th for Alvaro Fernandez. We saw him up towards the top 10 earlier on in the race. A little bit drama towards the end there, it seems. Kamal Hashimi, we were watching a few times, making some good moves in that race. 28th for him. Kevin Aby in 29th for Straight Avenue Esports Racing, followed by his teammate, Gabriel Stork. 31st for Alexander Rogenbuch. And 32nd for Mato Millennius. 33rd for Fernando Teixeira. Justin Jung in 34th, followed by 35th placed Daniel Nunes. 36th for Lee Tucker, 37th for Artie Boschart, 38th for Horacio Calquin. Was high up in the order, but a little bit of drama had compromised that later on in the race. Jean Baptiste in 39th, 40th for Artur Figueiredo of Fueltech Esports. the one that we all sort of gasped at, Ayabola Lawal in 41st place, a retirement due to contact involving lapped traffic down in 41st as a DNF, but I'm sure he'll bounce back next week, as will the other retirees we have mentioned, and mentioning here 42nd for Andy Spicer, EJ Filner, who we spoke to earlier on in the broadcast, in 43rd, and 44th for Hans Blancquari. Well, there are the classified results of this race here today, and your top three were Quero, Perina and Zuba of the pro category. Top three, Ibram, Stahl and Radat for the AM category. So we have got a few things to probably look back on, haven't we, Ed? A couple of incidents we might want to check out as that
Definitely.
race comes to an end.
So, I think so, yeah. I think for me, I think what could have happened, because I don't see anything on my event viewer that would give a telltale sign. So I think Christopher Stahl had to come into the pits at the end of the race and allowed James Ibram to take the race victory in the AM class. And I think we do have actually James Ibram in the interview waiting room, and I'll bring him in, Alex, to have a word with you.
James,
so
go ahead, Ed.
Sorry. So here is James Ibram, and that was a very entertaining race from your perspective. And what was it like at the end? Because I think, was it Christopher Stahl just missed out on the strategy?
Yeah, I don't know. He was going surprisingly slow, and after my half spin, which was a big mistake on my part, I thought I'd completely blown a chance for the win. And then when I was about 9 seconds behind, I noticed each lap I was gaining about a second and maybe 1.2 seconds a lap. And to the point where I was then, about before he spun, about 1.2 to 2 seconds behind him, with sort of a lap and a half to go. So I was hoping it would be a bit more of a, last corner overtake, but I mean, I'll take it. It's unfortunate, and I do feel for him. I've been there on many occasions.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does get your championship off to a dream start, doesn't it? You're able to obviously come out of this leading the championship. And after last season, you've had some great performances. You always looked like you were possibly in contention for the category victory. But do you reckon this season is going to be your one?
I don't want to say anything. Mostly because last season I pretty much predicted my downfall, immediately saying in the last interview I did, saying, I think just a bit of bad luck, and that can be that run over, and lo and behold, the next few races were all bad luck. So I don't know, I'd like to say yes, but again, I've got to be a little bit reserved and say, anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything can. And, well, to be fair, from my experience in this series, it often does happen, doesn't it, with these LMP2 cars? And what is it like returning back to the series, seeing some familiar faces, but also some fresh ones as well? How has it been like adapting to these new drivers?
Yeah, it's been fine. I had really a good race with Christopher Stahl, who's obviously finished second, but he was in the league last season. Really enjoyed our race, constantly sort of swapping positions in the pit phases. And I don't know what happened to Christian, but he was starting to take off, and he's a new driver, and he's looking like he's quite quick. So it's definitely being a little bit more forgiving of other drivers, give them a little bit extra space until you know where you stand is always a good policy to take.
Yes, absolutely. And you are going to Virginia International Raceway in just over a week's time on this next week, shall we say. What's your hopes there? VIR is a track that's very difficult to get right, I am aware. And is that something you're going to be putting practice in on getting it right?
I'm definitely going to put some practice in because I've never driven it before. It's a bit like Road Atlanta. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be getting in as much practice as I can, but I've got an exam in between, so it's going to be an interesting race, that's for sure. I might not be quite as pacey as I was around here.
I don't think I'm qualified to give any support or give any advice about VIR because I don't even have it either. So I'll be completely clueless as well, James. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what you can pull off in a week's time. But before we say goodbye to you, before we let you get to celebrate your AM class victory, is there anyone you'd like to shout out here on Simracersworld?
Obviously, thank you guys for the broadcast because I'm going to look forward to watching that back. And I guess I'll sort of thank the team as well because they helped with preparing for this race and were really supportive throughout. So really, really appreciate the team. They're a new team for me this season, so it's nice to have that support there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, James.
Thank you very much, guys.
So everybody, that was James Ebram, AM class winner, coming through to take the AM victory. And well, we've got another driver in, Alex, and shall we bring him in? This is Peter Zuber in the broadcast booth now, and I'll hand you over to Alex Everitt.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening, Peter, and a big congratulations on third place today and highest of the race clutch drivers today. 3 places gained. Well, give us a bit of a download on how your race went today.
Well, today's race didn't go as well as planned, although I turned out to have quite a good position in the end. I really didn't get a good quali lap in because of a mistake into the hairpin, and then I managed to keep it clean. I was doing the waiting game until the end, and then I basically just capitalized on the mistakes of the opponents. There was an unfortunate accident between Bence and Timo, which gave me 2 positions for free, and then I just finished the strategy that we have previously planned. Unfortunately, our setup was a bit inferior to our opponents, but we will probably get it sorted out for the next one.
Well, you're certainly not too far away when it comes to setup. I mean, a third place is certainly something to go by, and the team equally doing very well in 6th place and 8th place. 3 drivers in the top 10 is certainly something to celebrate. But yeah, you mentioned the incident between yourself, Timo, and your teammate Bence. What was your view of the incident there?
So basically what was happening is I tried to keep it really close behind both of them. And we were actually communicating with Bence obviously throughout the race. And as the events were unfolding, what was happening is that Timo had a bad run actually out of that right-hander in the Mercedes arena. I managed to go just next to him, whereas Bence blocked his line. On the outside, I could have gone for the inside, but what happened was Timo simply braked way too late for that corner and took Bence out, and a little bit himself in the process, and I could squeeze through on the inside, really.
Certainly something for post-race stewards to look at as well. Pretty good showing going in for this first race for you and for the team. How are you on Virginia International Raceway? Is it a track you and the team like? How do you see yourself doing in that next race?
Given that we only have 1 week to prepare and that it's a racetrack that we don't usually drive, it's probably once again not going to be one of our best tracks, but we will try to do a bit of damage limitation. I think that's going to be our primary plan as of now, and we will try to keep it clean, get some good points, and then come our tracks that we think we can get good podiums at, or even victories for sure.
Absolutely. Just before you head off, Peter, is there anyone out there watching the Apex Technologies broadcast that you want to give a shout out to?
Not really, no. Actually, I just want to thank Peter and Bence for figuring out the strategy. Because of uni, I didn't really have much time to work on it, so thanks to them.
Great stuff. Well, Peter, third place in round one and a good showing from the team. Congratulations on your race today. We'll see you next week at Virginia.
Thank you, guys, and yeah, see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Well, one thing's for sure, Ed, there's a lot of exams and studies going on at the moment, isn't there?
I mean, I'll pile mine onto the pile because I've got my exams coming up in a couple of weeks' time, so that's going to be another factor going in. Of course, that's not going to interfere with my ability to jump into the broadcast booth. Luckily, I don't need to practice as much as these guys need to practice in preparation for all of their races.
Yeah, 5 months after Christmas, but still, 'tis the season to be stressed about exams. But yeah, a lot of drivers, you know, when it comes to iRacing and big series like this, they really do relish in the opportunities to take part in this series, and it's great to watch. You can see how dedicated these drivers are to these series, and there's plenty of them on iRacing, but to get such a big and really skillful grid like Apex Technologies have got right here, it's rather impressive, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It has been a brilliant first race to really start off the second season of the Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship. I, for one, cannot wait for when we go to Virginia in a week's time and see all of these cars once again battling from the start to the end. But unfortunately, I think that is all the time we have for this evening. So I'll let you have the final word, Alex.
Thank you very much, Ed. Well, on behalf of myself, Alex Everitt and Ed May, and slipped my mind here, Simracersworld TV, thank you for tuning in to this round one broadcast of Apex Technologies LMP2 Championship round one here at the Hockenheimring. It's been a very, very exciting opening round of the season, but in 8 days' time on Sunday, the 23rd of May, we'll be back for round two and another 2-hour race at VIR, Virginia International Raceway. I've been Alex Everitt, Ed May alongside me. Thank you for watching this opening race of the season. We'll see you in 8 days' time. Thank you very much.
Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Come on. Black and white. It's black and white, just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go. It's only right for all I know. It's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white, 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 white. It's black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.